It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour.
It is Monday, December 3rd, 2018, and this is the Monday morning. No, it's not. It's not the Monday Morning Analyst at all. I just got done doing that. It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour. Should have done that ahead of time. Yes. What's up, everyone? My name is Luke Thomas. Welcome to the MMA Hour right here on MMAFighting.com. Thank you so much for joining me. Caesar is home, the whole bit. What a show we have planned for you guys today. All right. What do we have in store? UFC featherweight champion Max Holloway is going to be here. Let's see, Julianna Peña, who is a commentator for Combate Americas, plus a UFC flyweight, bantamweight, we're going to see. She'll join us a little bit after that. Michael Chandler, who's going to get a chance to get that title back, will join us after that. And then Rener Gracie is going to be here, huh? That's pretty important. I'm looking forward to that as well. So should be a ton of fun. Plus, Monday Morning Analyst, sound off, weigh-in, tweets, the whole nine. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. As always, keep sending those tweets using the hashtag #TheMMAHour. I always appreciate that when you do. Or just give us a call, 844-866-2468. You can also just shoot us an email if you're international, the MMA Hour, not MMA Hour, but the MMA Hour at voxmedia.com. And by the way, a lot of people will tag up the show on Twitter. They'll use hashtag MMA Hour. You got to put the "the" in there. The MMA Hour. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Wow, man. What a weekend of combat sports that was, huh? Woof. A lot going on. Hard to keep up with it all. Congrats to all the winners, and congrats to everyone who got to enjoy all those great fights. Let's do this now. Let's join my man in the back. He is the arequipe to my pan. He is the queso blanco to my chocolate. I had that yesterday, by the way. It's Danny Segura.
Did you hate it?
No, you know what? Here's the deal. My mother-in-law got back from Colombia. She was over there for her father's 85th birthday. And so she got the chocolate from there. She got the cheese from there.
Okay.
Folks who don't know, they put cheese in their chocolate there, hot chocolate. Yes. Bogota's in the mountains. It's 9,000 feet in the air. It's almost twice as high as Denver. So it's really cold. So here's what I noticed. It's fine. It's even good, maybe. I kind of like it.
It's excellent.
But you can't. You have to have their ingredients. You can't reproduce it here.
Of course. You can't use none of that hot chocolate powder or whatever that you find here at the supermarket.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. And it's the perfect mix of sweet and salty.
That's right.
It's just you got to try.
And the cheese is it's basically. I'll wrap this up here, but the cheese is it's tasteless enough, so that it's nice with the chocolate, but then has a little bit of salt at the end of it.
I know it sounds weird, aesthetically is weird, but trust me, it's good. I mean, Chito Era was backing me up on Twitter.
He was.
About it, so.
Chito doesn't know anything.
Chito
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I love Chito. Hey, man, what a weekend of combat sports, huh?
Man, it was great.
I watched. My wife was like, "Are you seriously going to do this all weekend?" And I was like, yeah, I am."
Yeah.
Do you have anything that stands out to you? I mean, we're going to get to the obvious stuff, but
I mean, it's got to be that shot from Wilder and Fury's recovery. I know that's the biggest thing, but I mean. I'm still in shock.
I'm still in shock.
Still in shock. I couldn't believe it. Fury's just made of something else. That shot would have killed a regular man. He's just, it was unbelievable.
He has mental fortitude that is impossible to describe.
And then he comes back and he's fighting him, right? And he's trying to survive. And I think at one point, and it's 30 seconds after he gets knocked down or something, he puts his hands down and he's still taunting him.
He taunted him after he got dropped. He just gets up and just does his whole bit.
Yeah.
A couple things I would like to note. Number one, I think it sucked for the Aussies and the Kiwis. They did not have a strong night in Adelaide. So that kind of sucked. But I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think either all or all but one of the fighters who graduated from the Contender Series, they all won. Shabazian, Roosevelt, Shevchenko. I'm sure I'm missing some others. Nice to see them. I'm telling you, the Contender Series, those fighters who come off of there are not to be trifled with. I really enjoyed that. And by the way, Kamaru Usman, my Lord, just, I mean, I have, you and I know this. I mean, Rafael dos Anjos is as credentialed as they come. Literally a former champion, granted a weight class down. And dude, Kamaru just kind of did whatever he wanted. Unstoppable.
Yeah, and he still looked like he had easily another 5 rounds in him.
Yeah,
that guy's already built for a championship fight. He's ready to go.
Yeah, let me do this before we go. I need to do my weigh-in. I'll talk to you. We got calls and tweets, right? They're all pretty good today?
Yes, they're very good.
Do we have any women callers? They've been beating me up on social media now.
And we got an angry one too. Like,
oh, do we?
Yeah, dude, women listen to our show, you know? We just gotta.
But if I hadn't said something, I poked the bear. All right, fine.
I mean, they're just too busy to call you.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. It's like, you want me to take you seriously, and I do now, but you ladies were slacking before, so let's just be real about that. All right, we'll come back to you in a little bit later, all right? Sounds good, my friend. Before we go to the weigh-in, very quickly, I just want to give a shout-out to the boys in the back. I make them do things in the studio that well, that sounds really weird, but I make them do things related to their job that the studio is not necessarily built for, and they do a phenomenal job bringing it to you. So I just want to say salute to everyone back there who makes this show possible in the way that I ask them to. And I know that's not easy sometimes, but they do it, and I'm always very, very grateful for their services in that regard. All right, time now for the weigh-in. Let's do the weigh-in right here on the MMA Hour on this 3rd of December, 2018. And this is a real simple one. I got this question, and I'm sure anyone else in media got this question too, man. How many people got tweets or whatever, or emails, or just watching general discussion after that Wilder-Fury fight? I know there's a lot of MMA, but I'm sorry. That was just the biggest contest over the weekend. How many people got hit up from fans asking legitimate question? Dude, like, is there any way to fix boxing as it relates to judging? And pardon me, is there anything we can really do about that? The answer is no. Nope. There's nothing you can do. Basically nothing. There might be a couple of small things, but the answer is no. I see this every time, and there's a terrible judgment that happens. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Or a referee does some kind of cockamamie thing. Oh, what are we going to do? And particularly as it relates to judging, the referee one, you can swap out personnel over time, which is true for judging too, but those problems sort of remain as consistent as time goes on. The answer is, here's what you can do. You can just learn to love boxing or MMA without having the need for appropriate judging validate your experience. Right? So I tweeted a photo of the referee at the end holding both Wilder and Fury's hands up, right? And so they're both kind of there. I mean, Wilder had his belt and Fury had his other hand up. But the point being was that they were trying to, like, you know, it was like, oh, split draw bomb picture. And I tweeted, I was like, oh my God, I'm like so amazed by these two combatants, because they both put it out there. And folks were like, oh my God, this was the worst. I can't believe this. This is a terrible decision. Folks, we'll get to this later in the Monday Morning Analyst. Yeah, it was not a good decision. It was pretty bad, to be quite honest with you. But the reality is nothing is going to change. You need to find a way to enjoy combat sports without it being validated by getting the appropriate decision call every time. Otherwise, you are going to be consistently miserable. Understand the mechanics in play here. We gave the keys to the kingdom to the people that run the DMV. We gave the keys to the kingdom to the people that run the VA. Did you see what happened with the VA this past week? They couldn't pay out GI Bill benefits because they had an IT system that was 50 years old. You could say, what does the VA have to do with athletic commissions? The answer is they're all part of this vast, complicated government bureaucratic nightmare. They may not staff the same people or even have the same tasks, but they all are emblematic of this glacial inertia, essentially, that we're all kind of stuck with. We're just stuck with this. How on earth are you going to get judging to be different anytime soon? Particularly in the MMA side, because I saw a lot of people being like, oh, boxing effed it up again. Boxing really screwed it up. Yo, you know that's the same commission that will do all the MMA fights in that state. I had Andy Foster on my show last Monday to talk about Chuck Tito. The guy sounded worn out, and he knew he had Wilder Fury still to come. It's the same people. Maybe not the exact same judges or the exact same referees. It's the exact same sort of leadership group in place with the exact same motivations, the exact same tenureship, the exact same glacial pace to everything that affects all of it. It's all the same. You can make this about boxing. It's not about boxing. It's about athletic commission sanctioning. You think this sounds like an attack on athletic commissions, and it's not. It's just understanding what we have working with us. The reality is we have enshrined in law and entrusted government entities to control how bouts are made, to control who fights, to control the rules, to control some of the medical procedures around this, to control the licensing, to control virtually every aspect of this other than the promotion itself. And sometimes that's a really good idea. Like, for example, to avoid self-dealing, you do need someone to make sure the promoter is actually making competitive fights, to make sure that the promoter is not skirting the rules, that the fighters weigh in a way they're supposed to make sure that someone who fights deserves to have a license and has cleared some medical protocol to get there. They serve a valuable, important role in MMA and in boxing. But on the other side, when it comes to like punishment, why is the Khabib Nurmagomedov Dylan Dennis nonsense not resolved? Because you have a government agency, bureaucratic as it may be, trying to lurch its way through it. That's why. How are you going to change judging? You're going to have to find another system that's better somewhere else, and then you're going to have to slowly implement it. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to experiment with that? Who's got the ideas for that? Nobody. If you're in mixed martial arts, what are you going to do? You're going to go state by state now? Zuffa has downsized. Remember all those people who got laid off when the new ownership group took over? Who's going to go state by state and do all of this? Nobody. Nobody is. There's no cavalry, folks. None. The reality is, I'm not telling you to love bad decisions or to not call a bad decision a bad decision. I'm not telling you to not like who you like or be upset that someone you like was mistreated. You had Tyson Fury saying, I think today, to BT Sport and to other people, I was robbed of the greatest comeback in boxing history. I'm not sure he's wrong. That might be true. And it's terrible. How are you going to fix that? It is not possible. It is not possible. Margins a little bit here or there. The UFC can do some self-regulation and experiment with some different attitudes overseas, as can other promoters. One championship, for example, has different rule sets. That's innovation. But MMA and boxing in all 50 states, and for boxing internationally, there's a lot of this. Even Japan doesn't regulate MMA, but they have their own boxing commission. That's why Tenshin Nasukawa can't be both a boxer and a kickboxer at the same time. You're stuck. You're stuck. This is what it is. And if your boycotts were really serious, well, then they might change things. But the promoters basically all make enough money and are able to recruit enough talent and stage enough shows that they don't have any reason to lobby the state commission to make any kinds of changes. So here is the reality. You got to be like Seneca. You got to be like Buddha. You got to just have a little stoicism about this in the face of disaster. You just have to say, in the words of our next guest, it is what it is, player. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And I know that sucks. It's a terrible way to start the weekend. I feel terrible for Tyson Fury. I'm a Deontay Wilder fan, and I mean that. But Tyson Fury got the raw end of the deal here, no doubt about it. But in terms of change, there is no change. In terms of offers, there is no offers. This is what it's going to be. Just find a way to enjoy it amidst the sadness. Yay! What a fun way to start fight week, huh? It's just true. You see me? I thought it was a bad decision. I didn't agree with it. Happy to see a rematch, of course. But I realize, what am I going to do? What are they going to do? It's not about what empowerment I have sitting in this chair to change things. It's just the reality of the situation. You handed over rules and judging and adjudication of disputes to a state agency. Welcome to that reality. All right, let's do this. Time now for a round of tweets. Five minutes on the clock. The clock starts when the first tweet goes up. Let's see it. Here we go. All right. People say that judging in MMA is a much more difficult endeavor over boxing. That's true. After watching Canelo versus Triple G1 and now Tyson versus Fury, you mean Wilder versus Fury. and seeing the judging, I'm starting to wonder if it is boxing that is more difficult to judge. Thoughts? No. Big John McCarthy told me something really interesting once. You can take someone trained in MMA, and to get them trained up to the level where they can judge boxing, it's a very short learning curve. Conversely, getting someone who is a boxing judge to then be able to judge MMA fights can often be a much, much longer learning curve. It's just a different sensibility about things. There are more combative aspects that you have to weigh inside of MMA, and there's fewer rounds. In boxing, there's a little bit more variance for different ideas and for error, actually. It's just in this one, they just made a lot of it. Next. With Fury and Wilder having a two-way rematch clause, but not for a draw, as Fury said in the interview afterwards, do you think this is something champs in MMA will start getting put in contracts? And we'll see more rematch, and what do you think if that happens? There is no way, short of someone being Conor McGregor powerful, the UFC is going to allow one of these guys to introduce a rematch clause into their contracts. Not going to happen. Next. Overeem, Dos Santos, Hua, and to some extent Ngannou. Does it warm your heart that the seasoned fighters are the ones who won their respective bouts? Does it complicate things that no torches were passed in the shallow heavyweight division? Awesome show. Thank you very much for that. You know, on the one hand, there was and there wasn't. Tuivasa didn't beat JDS, but on the other hand, Willis did beat Hunt. So there was I wonder if you call that torch passing in the Willis Hunt bout, but generally speaking, I think it's better if you've got these institutional figures when they naturally get pushed out and they don't suppress the amount of newcomers who can then re-energize the division. So generally, I don't like what happened over the weekend, but to your point, how do you not be happy for Alistair Overeem? How do you not be happy for Junior Dos Santos and particularly Shogun Rua? You have to be, right? So it's a little bit of both, I think. Next. Why are so many of the refs who have been around for years making critical mistakes constantly as of late? What can be done, if anything? So this is another complicated one, right? It's like, I'm not sure who you're referring to in this particular case. There needs to be constant re-education, and to some extent there is. But the state apparatus isn't really the one doing it unless they partner with a particular referee. Like Big John McCarthy teaches courses. Herb Dean teaches courses. I think even other ones do, like Jason Herzog and some other ones. It's not like the state teaches courses and then they go get the licensing from that. They are the ones not doing the licensing per se, but doing all of the best practices as it relates to that particular industry. And so you're asking why they make mistakes. I think, number one, that's just what the highest level of refereeing looks like for the most part. And number two, I wonder how much professional development that actually happens in the course of their careers. I'm sure a lot. I just don't know what the full answer is. And so it's kind of hard to understand how they make progress over time. Next. Caldwell or Horiguchi? Who are you leaning towards? Got to be Caldwell, Darian Caldwell. Horiguchi is a little bit bigger than I thought, but he's not nearly as big as Caldwell. I'd say he's actually more well-rounded than Darian, but Darian's shutdown wrestling should make the difference. We're going to see, but that's going to be a super interesting one because it'll be in that squared ring and not that rounded cage that Bellator uses. Should be a lot of fun. Next. How would you rate the overall growth of Tyson Pedro? He had a lot of hype coming into the UFC, but never been on a steady rise. Who's a suitable opponent for him, in your opinion? I don't think about the opponent at this point. You know, he looked really good early. It wasn't like he had looked like even Tuivasa and Pedro lost, but they looked good early. Overall growth of Tyson Pedro, I don't know. It's like on the one hand, he does a lot of things right. To me, the issue only seemed to be started strong. Tuivasa, same thing for the most part. It was just making good decisions consistently over time seemed to be a bit of an issue. So maybe it's just a maturation thing where, over time they learn to just slowly implement their offense rather than just sort of improvising all the time. They begin to understand when to improvise and when not to. It's a difficult question. You have to also ask what's his ultimate upside. I guess we're going to have to find out. But he's still too green to say that this is all we're going to get from him. There's a lot of life left in him. Let's go to the next one. In an interview recently, Dana said the Ultimate Fighter will keep going. I can't see any reason to keep it around. Why do you think the UFC has such a hard time letting Tough go? I think they're going to be able to cut costs in the next season because they're going to have their own, they're going to have their own a venue, and it does produce some decent stars over time, and they just seem to think that it's a good vehicle. I don't know why. All right, he's on the line now. Not a moment to waste. Let's get it going. He defends his title at UFC 231 this weekend. He is the reigning and defending UFC featherweight champion of the world via phone, I believe. Our friend Max Holloway joins the show. Max, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Luke. Yeah, it's phone interview, man. Sorry. I know you wanted to see my pretty face, but I wasn't able to get to Skype laptop, so I apologize. So I wanted to see that beard of yours. You know, that beard, your beard can be strong.
It does. It is certainly strong. Well, first of all, Max, a couple things I want to get to right off the break. Number one, I'm not going to see you tomorrow, so I'll say it now. Happy birthday. I know your birthday is tomorrow, correct?
Thank you, man. That's amazing. Thanks for remembering. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, that should be a lot of fun. Second of all, I saw your interview with the gentleman from Complex. Did you get the PlayStation PGs that you said you were going to?
Hey, I got him. Did
you really?
We picked that. Yeah, I'm about that life. I was jogging when the raffle went down, and I entered. I didn't get them, and then one of my friends, is being smart ass to me. He showed me, my cameraman actually. He showed me. He's like, hey, what does this mean? Because he entered a raffle too on the sneakers app. And he's like, hey, what does this mean? And he had big words that said got him. I was like, wow. I was like, thanks for rubbing it in the face, because I just told him I didn't get him. And then I had a couple homies in Hawaii enter the raffle for me too, and one of them got him for me. So he hit me up through Instagram and told me, hey, look, I got him for you. So I'm so stoked. I'm excited. I can't wait.
All right, whenever you can put them on your feet, whenever you get your hands on them, can you Instagram or tweet a picture of them, please?
Oh, yeah, it might be a video. It might, I don't know, last time I kicked a car window out, so maybe we kick something else out with them on. It'd be fun.
That would be kind of fun. All right, man, let's get to it. You know, I don't know exactly what to ask you about some of this stuff, except just to say, are you already tired of all the questions about the difficulties you face this year? I know Media Week is about to start. I mean, how do you feel about having to answer for this kind of stuff all the time?
It is what it is. You know, some people are concerned, really concerned. Some people need to do a job, and it comes with my job. So, you know, I ain't concerned. I know about your questions. You know, I've been answering a bunch of times. You know, the answer's not going to change on all of them. So, you know, if you guys want to hear an old record play, then, you know, keep asking the questions.
Have you thought more about it? Because I know that, you know, it's not a concussion, or at least you don't think it was. You don't think it was the water loading thing or the weight cutting thing. Could it have been some kind of illness that they just didn't diagnose or didn't know about?
Yeah, you know, we don't know. You know, we took the tests that they thought that what it was. Like I said before, you know, we took all the tests. We passed all the tests. So, and all the tests is coming back looking great. So, you know, at the end of the day, we see, you know, I still got an ongoing private investigation, you know, with trying to figure out what's going on, you know, me and my team, because we still trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's not the big things that they thought. So, you know, right now I can't comment too much on it because we still got the investigation going on. But, you know, that's it.
How do you know you feel better? Like, can you give us a sense of, like, how you know internally, okay, I feel the way I'm supposed to? Man,
I wish I could let you guys into my camp, but ninjas move in silence, and and that, like, this camp been one of the greatest ones ever, man. It's I've been breaking numbers, doing a lot of amazing stuff, you know, making surprising a lot of people. So I can't wait, man. I just can't wait for December 8th and show you guys what I've been working hard for. You know, it's people keep sleeping, you know, it's time to wake them up again and let them know that Blessed Era is still full effect. And, you know, jump on the Blessed train now, you know, the Blessed Express. We're at the pit stop right now. We're waiting for you guys all to get inside, you know. It's better to be sitting down inside than chasing us, you know, because it's a really fast train. So, you know, don't be one of those guys jogging behind it.
You know, could you kind of feel like a lot of people forgot about, I mean, because coming off the second Aldo win, you were on top of the world. Do you feel like some people forgot about what you were doing in the sport because of all of the difficulties, and perhaps Saturday is your chance to be like, okay, remember back then? It's still going on.
Yeah, you know, like what I said, you know, I told you guys already, you know, everybody keeps saying this is going to be one of the hardest fights for me, you know, and I believe, you know, I believe every fight is hard. You know, everybody keeps saying this guy's undefeated and this and that. For, you know, I'm 1-0 every fight. You know, I'm undefeated. He's fighting an undefeated fighter too. You know, but at the end of the day, my favorite thing to do is when people say, oh, this guy's going to do this to me, this guy can do this to me. And I go out there and I show them what's really up. and then they're like, damn, okay, maybe not, you know. So I like making people question themselves. So Saturday night, just tune in, you know. Like I said, I know if you're in Toronto, if you're in the area or whatever, I know the tickets is sold out, you know, and the event is sold out already because the fans here is crazy for it. And they know that Christmas is coming December 8th instead of December 25th this year. And, you know, but I tell you one thing that never sells out is pay-per-view, you know. So you guys got to start figuring it out, you know. Be with your friends and your families and, you know, make big parties, make small parties. And if you're going to a party, buy a pay-per-view at your house because that's how great this card is going to be. This is an MMA Insiders card. You know, all the inside guys wanted this card, and it's here.
Let's talk about your opponent, Brian Ortega, for a second. I went back yesterday in preparing for this interview, and I watched all of his UFC fights, right? Here's one thing I noticed. True or false? Outside of Frankie Edgar, you're the only other opponent he's faced in the UFC that consistently uses a jab.
Is that true or false for you? You can true or false. You tell me.
100% true, in my judgment.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you think that means? Do you think would you acknowledge up front that the jab is not only central to your fights in the way that it has been, but probably for this one too?
Look, everybody keeps talking about boxing, all these boxing fights and blah, blah, this and that. You know, I pride myself in being the best mixed martial artist. And being the best mixed martial artist, you must go to the other martial arts and train yourself in them, you know. And just so happened, boxing is one of my favorite ones, you know. And I love, like you said, that jab. So we're about to find out.
Is it obvious to say, and maybe it is, that the biggest threat from him is his clamp, or jumping on some kind of a head and an arm? You know, it's just setting up some kind of submission in the you know, the flash of an eye, or like when you assess him as an opponent, his biggest threat is what?
He's dangerous. The man is dangerous. You know, he's just a dangerous guy all around. You know, he showed that he can knock you out. You know, with a punch, with a kick, with a knee. He showed that if you give him something, he's going to try to take it home with him. And he also showed that he got a chin on him. You know, that the Mexican blood in him, man, is crazy. You know, it's going to be a crazy fight. You know, Mexican and Hawaiians, we're born fighters, so it's crazy. It's amazing, and I just can't wait to. This is one of the guys, and this is a fight. You know, everybody keep talking about, man, I wish these guys could fight at this time, and blah blah. Or here it is. You know, two young guys, and for the fight that matters most, for a belt, for a champion, for a world championship fight. So I can't wait to do it, man. I just can't wait to go out there. And, you know, this fights that excite me because this is one of those guys that, you know, when it's all said and done, they look at my career and they look at the list and they're like, damn, who did this guy not fight? You know, and that's just what I want to be. I want to be the best ever.
What do you make of the fact that he snatches submissions so late in fights sometimes?
Hey, that's the jiu-jitsu way. You know, you're never out to fight. You know, like I got one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world too. You know, in Rylan Lazarus, and even and his trainer was Pedro Sauer. And every time I talk stories with Pedro, you know, it's like that's the Gracie way. You know, to the death. You know what I mean? Like to someone, like, you know, like I'm gonna take it or hurt you or I make you quit. You know, so I think it's cool. You know, he's really living that Gracie jiu-jitsu lifestyle, and that's dope.
Is there any way to, like, give the fans a sense of what the last year has been like? Last time I saw you was actually that media day where Conor had that whole crazy thing, and that was when you were going to fight Nurmagomedov before everything went awry. And I'm wondering, if you look back on this year, 2018, how would you describe 2018 in your mind?
You know, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, man. You know, I found out a lot about myself. Found out a lot about just life in general, and you know, it's just a learning experience. You live, you learn. You know, so I'm just blessed, man. I found out that I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. It's bigger than a nickname. So all I can say about this year is I'm blessed. You know, it's crazy. I went through rough times, a bunch of rough times, but we're here. You know, it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish, and we're gonna finish strong come December 8th.
Do you need to win? I mean, obviously you want. Look, I'm gonna ask this question very carefully. Dominic Cruz, when he beat T.J. Dillashaw after that long layoff, said he didn't need that win to validate who he was. He knew it. The winning was nice, but he had already had a sense of what it meant to be who he was. Do you share that view? Like, is winning part of this process, or is winning a bonus to the process?
Yeah, winning is a bonus, man. You know, I know who I am. I know who I am. No win, no loss, nothing shake me. You know, life is great, man. Life is great. You know, we go out there. I go out there, have fun. You know, people keep stressing. People keep thinking too far in the future. People keep thinking too far in the past. They're living in the past. So at the end of the day, I feel great, man. I know who I am. I know what I can do and what I'm capable of do, and it's one step at a time, you know. So I can't wait, and we see what happens. You know, it's an exciting time to be alive, you know, and an even better time to be a blessed fan. So if you're not, flip the switch, and you know, join the blessed arrow.
How come you and Canada click so well?
Man, look. This is how it goes. The Hawaiian Islands got eight. The chain got 8 islands on them, right? A bunch. We call Las Vegas the 9th island because a bunch of Hawaiians moved there, so it's like the 9th island. Toronto is the 10th island. They're amazing. The people here, the fans here is great. You know, I got more than a dozen people hitting me through my webpage, telling them, hey, look, if you need a place to stay, we got an extra room for you and your team. I got they offering us to cook dinners and stuff. You know, where else does this happen? It's crazy. You know, every other place we go, we don't get that kind of love. So it's amazing. I don't know what it is. You know, even on last week Thursday, you know, they used my gift and stuff after they didn't beat Golden State for like 4 years or something at home, and they finally did it. So it was amazing. After a big win like that, they used my gift. You know, yelling, "Where's my belt?" So it's pretty cool.
Max, are you mad at me that I'm more of a Pusha T fan than a Drake fan?
No, not at all. You know, but you know, you might get a surprise, little rat bite in your beard if I see you next time, and if I got clippers in my hand. But that's about it.
How is Drake? Convince me. Is he a good guy?
Yeah, Drake is a good guy, man. He's a nice guy. You know, we got to talk. I got to talk to some of his guys on the team. You know, I got to talk to the guy, the man who runs his OVO line for him. You know, him and his crew is a bunch of good guys, a bunch of good crews. I was talking a little story with them in the back, and you know, I got nothing but nice things to say about him.
You know what's kind of interesting? I haven't had a chance to pick your brain about this. I know you got just a couple minutes left, so let me do it before you go. What did you make of Conor's fight against Khabib? Because I know that you guys used to go back and forth a lot. That's kind of died down. When you saw that fight at UFC 229, what did you make of it?
You know, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, Conor got smashed." I didn't see it. You know, like in a couple positions he did, but I thought he was doing great. I thought he was doing actually pretty good. You know, I thought they had a good game plan going into the fight. It looked great. It looked good. It's just Khabib was just capitalizing on that real little mistakes Conor was doing. Khabib was just capitalizing it, you know. So I just think Khabib was just on his game a little bit more that night than anything, and it was a good fight, you know. It was. I think a lot of people was like just saying that Conor didn't do that good, but I thought Conor did pretty good. You know, it is what it is. He was in bad positions. He got out of bad positions too. So, you know, my asset of it was he did all right.
Did that fight give you more confidence that had you faced him at UFC, what was it, 223, that you would have won?
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we would have seen. We're going to find out, you know. We got nothing but time, too. You know, I know they're figuring out, they got to figure out their stuff going on. So we'll see what happens. I got Brian Ortega first. You know, that's definitely, the two of them is definitely the guys that would be cool, you know, and everybody keep talking about. So we'll see what happens. You know, I'm a fighter, you know. I'll fight whoever, and you know, I'm a champion. I've been a champion, and you know, I'm about to go out here and defend, be a defending champion. And the next thing on my list is to be on the pound for pound list. So you know, and that number 1 pound for pound, you know, and whatever fights it is that takes me there, I'll go there. You know, if it's going up a weight class, if it's staying here defending my belt 12 times, if it's going up 3 weight class, if I gotta go and see the baddest man on the planet, then so be it. You know, we're gonna get it because I want that number 1 pound for pound spot.
Last question before you go: how long before you're number 1 pound for pound in the sport?
We'll see what happens. You know, we'll see what happens. It's all about hard work. I just got to keep on putting in the work. You know, it's up to you guys. You know, whoever the guys voting for it. You know, you guys, they got to figure out. Go ask them. I'm just gonna keep on doing my job and you know, keep getting these wins.
I know you got to go. Max, I really appreciate your time. You've done a ton of media. I know you got a lot ahead of you. Thank you. Genuinely, I say that. Thank you for making some time for me on the show. And, dude, I cannot wait to see you and Ortega lock horns on Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Luke, man. You've always been one of the greatest supporters and stuff. So you have a good happy holidays.
There he goes. Max Holloway. Blessed era is what we're in. Hey, we're going to have Julianna Peña in about 5 minutes or so. I didn't get a chance to get to it a whole lot here or in my weigh-in. I thought about making it the weigh-in, and I was like, I don't know. Can we say something about Shogun Rua for just a second? I know a lot of folks were just so amazed by him on Saturday at UFC Adelaide. Oh, my God, man. I was just, like, I'll be honest. I was so happy to see him win. Nothing against Tyson Pedro, of course. Dude, going into this week, I didn't even realize he was on the card until I had, for my job, to open up the page and see who was on there. And I was like, oh, my God, Shogun, who was fighting this week? I didn't even know. And then I was like, oh, man, Tyson Pedro, and he's a young gun. He's going to go out there and just give him hell. And then at first I was like, Jesus, this is terrible. That first round, Tyson Pedro was just tearing him up, you know? And you were thinking to yourself, oh, this has just gone on too long. Remember, he was coming off the Anthony Smith loss where he got viciously KO'd, and it was a whole thing. And you're just like, you know, how much should this guy be fighting? And even in the win, I'm still like, I don't know, this is, for his health, I don't know if this is like the best idea I've ever seen in terms of preserving it. You know, he's got the LeBron hairline. It's all moving back. And all of us in our late 30s are like that. But, and he just, you know, he doesn't quite look the same as he used to. And it's, for many years, he was joked on for his knee injuries and what they did to his vitality and his capability and everything else. And then he just showed, like, what was so amazing about that experience at UFC Adelaide. It was like, you couldn't call it vintage Shogun because it wasn't. Vintage Shogun would be the 2005 middleweight tournament, right? In Pride, where he's just blowing through everybody. And that's not what this is. He is older. Not as, you know, muscular and lean as he used to be and whatnot. But in terms of the resiliency, in terms of that fight like a dog until the moment you are either unconscious or they are, or the ref is separating you, this absolute commitment, this warlike commitment that he had, that was all still in play, and that he was able to dig out a win. I was at 37 years of age after suffering that terrible first round. In some ways, maybe that was vintage Shogun spirit. Just incredible to watch, man. Like, we always talk in MMA, like, what is the best tournament that's ever been? And maybe that 2005 Pride tournament was. But we never talk about, like, who's had the best tournament runs. Oh, he won the most prestigious tournament. But it was always about the tournament. What tournament had the most stars? What tournament had the most action? What tournament produced the best result? Yo, who had the best tournament? That's what I want to know. Who had the best run? And in MMA, there's a lot you could argue. You could maybe say Mark Coleman 2000. You could say, I don't know, a lot of different ones. But I'm going to go with Shogun Rua's 2005 middleweight run. It's just unlike anything else you've ever seen. It's just unlike anything else you could ever have imagined. And he's had a gazillion downs since then. But just to see a flash, a moment, a something that was there was really kind of incredible. So Tyson Pedro has time to get back on the winning track, and I'm sure he will. And I don't know how much life left in him as a fighter, to be honest, that Shogun has. But for 2 rounds, really, on Saturday night of the 3, I suppose, he showed us just his incredible character. I'm in awe of it, like I always am. All right, let's go to our next guest. Is this phone or Skype, Danny? I can never remember. Phone. Okay. Let's go to our next guest. She joins us. She's a commentator for Combate Americas, a UFC bantamweight, a mother, and so much more. The inimitable Julianna Peña joins us right now on the MMA Hour. Hi, Julianna. How are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Julianna. It's been a long time since we've spoken. I think I know you've been active in the MMA world through Combate, but in terms of your UFC side of things, we have missed you.
Definitely, yes. I have been commentating for Combate Americas and loving every second of it.
All right, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's backtrack here a little bit. So you last fought, I believe, January of 2017. Yes, did I get that number right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes you guys know the stats about myself more than I know.
Fair enough. Real quickly about that, I've heard some rumblings from social media, I believe, that you were sort of considering a comeback. Where are we in the process of that?
It's soon. That's what I can say.
So you have actively spoken to the UFC?
No, I have not, no, but my people have, yeah.
Okay. Have you been training on, I mean, you must have been active in the gym, obviously childbirth notwithstanding, but as a general life practice, you've been in the gym, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how active? Like, if they called you today, how far away could you be physically from doing it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm kind of in the midst of figuring that out. I'm here in my hometown getting evaluated, and, I'll be leaving here on Wednesday, and hopefully by the end of that time, my coach will have an answer for me as to when I'll be ready to take a fight again and get back in fight camp.
Oh, I see. Fair enough. Okay, so could be first quarter, maybe second quarter of 2019, something in that ballpark-ish?
Yeah, 2019 for sure.
Yeah. I got to tell you, the division's changed a lot since you've been around. What do you make of the state of women's MMA these days, and particularly your division, and what has happened since you were last around?
I think that it's awesome. I just know that the bantamweight women are killing it, and it's exciting to see. And it's always refreshing to see a 35 or a 135er on the cards. You don't see enough of them. They're far and few in between. So I'm always really excited when I see a bantamweight women's fight. So I'm happy for them, and I can't wait to get back in the division and join them.
Yeah, I could well imagine. Let's talk about a few different things related to that, and I want to talk about this Copa Combate in here in just a minute. Very quickly, though, this weekend you have UFC 231, one of your previous opponents, Valentina Shevchenko, dropping down a weight class, 125, where she takes on Joanna Jedrzejczyk. I wonder what you make of this matchup.
I think that Valentina is going to win. That's all I think.
Okay, give me a reason why. Is it size? Is it the size and the skill? Something else?
Yeah, it's the size for sure. I definitely think that she's got more size and strength on her, and I definitely think that she's the more experienced fighter when it comes to dealing with heavier opponents. You know, she's been fighting girls that walk around way heavier than her for a long time. So I think that her moving down to 125 is a smart move, and I definitely think she's going to have the strength advantage.
Physically, when you locked up with her, did she feel like other bantamweight? Because you also fought and defeated Kat Zingano, who is known for being physical in that weight class. Relative to her, how did she physically feel?
I definitely felt like I was stronger than her, and I think I just got a little overzealous and a little too excited. You know, they always say position before submission. I think I kind of punched myself into a submission, so I definitely felt that I was, though, physically stronger than her. Fair
enough. So 125, a better weight class for her, then?
Yeah. It's a smart move.
What do you make about Joanna Jedrzejczyk jumping up? It just seems a bridge too far for me, at least against Shevchenko.
Yeah, I think, she was talking about wanting to do it for such a long time. And I know that, there were some people out there being like, yeah, that's never going to happen. She's never going to do that. And I think that they really were convinced of that for a long time. But I think that she also was serious about it, and she's proving that she was serious by moving up a weight class and fighting Shevchenko. So I think that that's very, very ballsy of her, very gutsy. And, I commend her, hats off to her, and, may the best woman win. But in my opinion, I think that Valentina will be the victor.
Fair enough. By the way, in terms of when you come back, I know you're not going to name an opponent because this is all still very, very new. I get it. But inside the top 10, in terms of ranking, inside the top 5, what are you thinking?
I'm not thinking. I'm just thinking about when I'll be healthy and ready to compete, and when I'll be ready to get in a fight camp, and then the opponent will come later.
Yeah, all right. I can dig it. All right. By the way, how did you get this gig with Combate Americas? How did that come about?
Campbell McLaren has been trying to hit me up for a long time, and he was calling the wrong number, literally. And so when he finally came through with my agent, he's like, kid, I have been trying to get a hold of you for a long time. And then I was like, this is a cold-hearted woman. She will not return my phone calls. What do I got to do to get this girl a part of my team? And he's like, and then I found out I had the wrong number the whole time. And he's like, so I've been wanting you forever. I think that you're great. I think that you got the great look. I want to make you a star. And I think that you have the right capabilities for coming on board with my team. So he got in contact with my agent, and we just set it up and made it happen. And you know, I couldn't be more grateful. Campbell is a genius, and he's a really great man to work for, and he's a really funny man, and I just enjoy every second working with him.
What's the hardest part about commentating?
The hardest part about commentating is jumping over people. You know, I get so excited in there. I'm always, you know, I could talk to a rock about MMA, literally. I could talk to a wall. I could talk to anyone about MMA, anyone who will listen. I could talk about it forever and ever and ever. But the thing is I get so excited, and I know these guys personally sometimes too, that it's hard for me to hold my excitement in, and somebody will be saying something and I'll just be screaming, yes, you got him, you know? And so it's really hard for me as a fan to try to rein it in and be a little bit more professional and quit jumping over people. And I think that's the most difficult part for me, because sometimes, you know, I'm in a 3-man booth and I'm sitting there being like, you guys can take this one off. I got this. You know, I'm just sitting there thinking I could just do it all by myself if they'd let me.
Was it the perfect job to come along while you had this motherhood break and this break from MMA to still be watching these young fighters coming up, talking about them? Like it's this good proximity, but not necessarily an unhealthy, toxic sense, the relationship to MMA during that time.
It was a great thing, you know. It was something that I've always wanted to get into, you know. They always say, you know, fighting's great and all, but your fighting career is going to end at some point, so you have to have a backup plan. And talking about fighting is something that makes me very happy. And I've always wanted to get my foot in other avenues and open up other doors in the MMA world. I've always wanted MMA to be a part of my life and to engulf my life for the rest of my life, because it is what I am passionate about. So MMA and talking and being a chatterbox is just something that comes naturally to me. And so to get this kind of gig, especially from transitioning into motherhood and transitioning back into fighting, has been a blessing, you know, and it's just real nice to, you know, get that diaper money and not having to get punched in the face and do something that I enjoy doing. So it's all real fun. And I love the fights. I got to tell you, these fights are so exciting, and they have such a high percentage of finishing in Combate Americas. And so these fights are so exciting. And I'm so excited in particular about this Copa Combate 8-man one-night tournament that's coming up here.
So let's talk about that more. December 7th at the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California. Correct me if I get any piece of this wrong, Julianna. This is the second annual tournament, right? One night, 8-man featherweight tournament. And here's how it goes. Quarterfinals are 1 5-minute round. Semifinals and finals will be 3 5-minute rounds. Winner gets $100,000. Did I get that right?
Right, and it's a pinnacle of a tournament kind of deal, because it's country versus country, and there's 8 countries. The winner gets $100,000 and a trophy that is the largest trophy in sports. It's 4.5 feet tall. It's a foot taller than the Stanley Cup. It weighs like 85 pounds or something crazy like that. It's the most beautiful trophy I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, if it were me, I would just want to be fighting for that trophy, because that's like massive bragging rights. Like, that trophy is so gorgeous. Literally, I'm just so excited to see whoever wins get that thing and try to take that home on a plane, because that thing is going to be interesting. But yeah, you can see the whole thing live on DAZN. I'll be commentating alongside Max Bretos and Gilbert Melendez, and it is the first sanctioned one-night 8-man MMA tournament in the U.S. So I think they did one in Oklahoma, but that one wasn't sanctioned. I don't know if it was sanctioned or not, but anyways, this is the first one, and it's huge. It's at 145 pounds, and it's the format that Campbell used to originally start the UFC. So it's such a fun thing, you know, because literally you don't know who's going to win. You think, you know, you have your favorites and everything like that, but what if your favorite gets knocked out in the first round, gets a cut above his eye, it's so big that he can't continue, you know, and then he's knocked out. So anything can happen. And as you know, in MMA, anything can happen. But in this particular instance, it's going to be crazy because, like I said, 8 different countries, 1 5-minute round to seal the deal so that you can move on. And you got to fight 3 times in order to win this thing. So it's going to be bananas.
How do you fight a one? Okay, so the quarterfinals are 1 5-minute round. What is the plan there? Because, yes, the plan could be, go finish somebody, right? But it's not always that easy. How do you game plan around that?
What's so interesting about that is I think that that's so cool. You got 5 minutes, literally. You have 5 minutes to go put it on someone. Like, literally, it's like the difference between life or death and the difference between, in my opinion, me and that trophy, So I want that trophy. I'm going to try to go kill you so that I can get that trophy. And then, of course, $100,000 and the bragging rights from being, the winner of beating someone, 3 different men in one night. That's massive bragging rights. And it's so old school style that it literally gets me excited just thinking about it. Because, so you have 5 minutes to go put it on someone. And if you don't, then you're out, literally. And that's the difference. It's like, do you want this or not?
And again, this will be December 7th at the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California, live on DAZN. Winner gets $100,000. By the way, do you plan to keep commentating as your fighting career resumes? You going to do both?
Yeah. I'm definitely going to do both. And they know that I'm going to be fighting again. So, there's some shows that I'm not going to be able to make it to because I'll be in training camp and it will be too close to the fight. But then there's also going to be times where I'm not going to be fighting and I'll be commentating. So it works out really well. They work with my schedule. They're a great organization to be working for. I couldn't be more blessed and proud.
What do you think why is Combate Americas surging? If you had to explain it to somebody, how would you identify the cause of their ascension?
Easy. Latinos are on the rise. Latinos are coming up, and it's our time to shine. And Latinos are taking over, and these fighters fight their asses off. And we like to say this phrase, fight like a Mexican, And it might sound, you take it however you want, but Mexicans work their asses off and they're not going to stop and they're not going to quit. And you're literally going to have to kill them in order to get them to stop. So these fighters are literally putting it all on the line. They're honored to be fighting at such a high profile and such a high platform. And they fight their asses off and they know that their asses are on the line. If you don't fight your ass off, you're out, So they're honored to be fighting on, Telemundo, Univision, on DAZN, and they fight like it. And you could literally see that if you just watch, one show. You'll see that we have a high finish rate in all of our fights.
Do you as you travel, because I know some of these shows take place obviously in Latin America, as you travel through, do you see enough technical development? So the thing you're identifying is their willingness to compete, which I think is beyond question at this point, certainly. But are you seeing enough gyms popping enough technical development? To what extent are best practices making their way south of the border, so to speak?
I think that that's a thing. And boxing was such a huge thing in Mexico for so long. And now it's getting to the point where it's kind of being a dead thing. Boxing's not as popular in MMA. There's so many other ways to win. And so I think that what's interesting about these Latino fighters is that they're stand-up fighters. They don't necessarily have all of the ground technical skill, all of the wrestling, but that's okay because we like to see them bang it out and stand on the feet and knock each other out. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're standing on the feet. They don't want to go to the ground. And if they do go to the ground and if they're on the ground for too long, they stall and then they get picked back up on the feet until a knockout happens again, So I think that's also something different. We like to say this thing in Combate, mucho más acción, which means a lot more action. There's always action going on. And once they go to the ground and they're just kind of, laying on top of each other, we're like, nah, stand back up. And then they fight again because that's the way that they fight. They fight on the feet, and they really do bang it out. And I think that that's what kind of segregates us from different organizations is that we're not letting them stay on the ground forever. We want these guys to slug it out on the feet and they want to slug it out on the feet too. So, it works out for everyone.
I know Max Bretos from his work at ESPN. We actually spoke recently. Because he's trying to do some other things, and he hit me up about it. What is it like working with him? He's an interesting character.
I love Max. I feel like, since I've been working with Combate, I've had a lot of play-by-plays, and Max is by far my favorite. He's such a professional. He's so good at what he does, and he makes it so much fun. He makes my job easier, and he, like I said, he's such a professional, and I'm always telling him, please, make sure that you're at the next show, because I feel like I can't do it without him now.
Last time we spoke, I don't know if you remember this, probably not, in which case, don't worry. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. We spoke very briefly about the situation in Venezuela, which was not great at the time and has certainly been, it's gotten worse since then. I'm wondering, as you watch what's happening in your native country to a degree and where your family's from, what goes through your mind?
It's really taxing for me because, you see your family members that are having trouble. And actually, I just received my cousin about a month ago who's coming back to Chicago with me. He's been held up at gunpoint 3 times. And the 3rd time he thought that he was going to literally be killed. His car was stolen. And like I said, imagine being held up at gunpoint 3 different occasions. It's terrifying. Their food is being rationed out. He just had a friend actually that their house was being broken into. The man that he worked with, his coworker, confronted these people that were breaking into their house, shattered the glass, and he lives with his parents, so he was trying to make sure that his parents were okay. They knocked him unconscious, and they shot him in the heart right then and there, and they robbed him. And these things are occurring every single day. Your food portions are being rationed out to the point where you only get a kilo of sugar per 2 months. You're fighting over a roll of toilet paper. These people are literally being murdered. They're being starved to death. The water systems don't work. The lights and electricity are going out all the time. Their garbage is not being picked up off the street, and the garbage is just mounting and mounting and mounting. I mean, the problems are just so unimaginable. I couldn't even imagine living like that, and it truly breaks my heart, honestly. And it makes me feel like I want to help them. I want to do what I can, but the thing is so corrupt over there. So you go to make boxes to deliver to your family, and they get received at the border, and then the police or the government is going to rummage through all that and take everything out of there and give it to their families instead of giving it to the families that you're sending it to. So everything is just so corrupt over there, and it's terrible. It's god awful. A lot of my family has moved to Chile and tried to move out to get away from the violence and to get away from the crime, but it is truly bad, and it really needs more attention. And I wish that I could do more to put more attention on that. And I just feel like I haven't found enough help in that area as much as I would like to shed more light on what is truly going on. But I mean, if anybody's listening to this and has any sort of pointers for me to be able to help, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, they could use all the help they can get. By the way, your cousin that's coming here, did he or she move permanently, like as a way to just get out of Venezuela?
He is an engineer. He has an engineering degree, so he's on a work visa, so he will have to go back, but eventually he'll come back again.
Man, there's some people I know in my town who tried to declare asylum, and I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I certainly hope. Well, I got to tell you, I don't want to end this on a sour note, as important and serious as that issue may be. I got to say, Julianna, MMA's missed you. It's going to be good to have you back, and certainly if folks can catch you on December 7th, talking about Copa Combate for this one-night featherweight tournament. But I got to say, in terms of you competing, I think it's a good time to come back too, don't you?
Yeah, I definitely do. But, it's also really nice to know that I've been missed. You guys want to see me fight, and that makes my heart happy.
Fair enough. All right, I'll let you go. Julianna, I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the the Combate Americas gig. And December 7th can't come soon enough. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And all those people out in Fresno, come check out the show. It's going to be amazing.
There it is. Fair enough. Thank you, Julianna. There she goes. All right. Yeah, there are various charities if you wanted to donate any money to the folks in Venezuela. I don't know what the best ones are. I'm going to imagine that the Red Cross is one of them. I've given money to one that tries to, help a lot of different causes, but one of them is there's like starving animals in the streets, and these are ones that try to collect them and give them some kind of health care and food. So I've given some money to them, but obviously there's a gazillion people that could use your money as well. I've given some to some of those charities too. It's a ridiculously awful situation right here in the Western Hemisphere, and I don't think it gets a lot of discussion, and it's going to impact, it's going to destabilize that entire region, and it's going to impact a lot of different people. So it's unfortunate, but they could use your help if you've got any help to give. We are going to transition here in just a moment, I believe. We had our first two guests on phone. I think our next two guests are going to be on Skype, fingers crossed, knock on wood. But I didn't even realize this again until I was sort of like looking into the details about it. It's two shows that Bellator is putting on in Hawaii. The big one that's getting a little bit more attention, of course, is going to be Bellator 213. That's going to be at Blaisdell Arena on the 15th of this month. But then the one before that, December 14th, Bellator and USO present Primus versus Chandler 2. So it's two shows that freaking Bellator is bringing to Hawaii. How about that, man? They're not just coming for a one and done. They're doing both. All right. He joins us now on our Skype machine, former Bellator lightweight champion, maybe soon to be again. There he is, the Mizzou Tiger himself, Michael Chandler. Hi, Michael. Eating that food. Can you hear me or no? Hi, Michael. Looking diesel. There he is. What's up, man?
What's up, Luke? How are you?
Doing well. Look at you, all diesel.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. He's like 8 minutes
What's up?
behind.
How are you?
Good, good. All right, let's get this going.
Dude,
here we are.
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. Excited to get out there. Go.
All right, so are you, by the way, in Tennessee? Are you in Nashville?
That's the name. That's the name of the game.
He's like 8 minutes behind me. Are you in Nashville? Yeah, let's call him back. Why don't we put the screen up again? Because he's like
I'm
50.
in Florida, and it does look like you're a few seconds behind. So
yeah. Hold on. Time out. We're gonna call him back. He's a little bit behind for that to work. If it doesn't work, we'll just put him on phone. It's fine too. It's okay. See old Michael Chandler just sitting there eating, drinking protein shakes, looking swole, son. Out there in the weight room, putting in work. All right, they're going to restart the Skype machine and then get him back on. As I mentioned, by the way, so there's the two cards. You know the big one, Bellator 213, McFarland versus Letourneau. That's going to be the Neil S. Blaisdell Arena. That's, let's see, that's McFarland versus Letourneau, Machida versus Carvalho, Rener Gracie, Ed Ruth, part of the welterweight tournament. Then you have Mo Lawal taking on Liam McGeary, and then it opens with Kona Oliveira taking on Naya Noah Dung. That's the name. I don't know. I forget. Forgive me. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Then the night before that, Primus Chandler, Mir versus Javi Ayala, Alejandro Lara taking on Juliana Vazquez, and then Derek Campos taking on Sam Cecilia. By the way, I think Chris Avila fights on that card as well on the prelims. So two cards back-to-back night. Bellator seems to like doing this. They did it last week. They've done it before, Bellator 210, Bellator 211. And they're going to do it again with Bellator 212, Bellator 213. So a bunch of Bellator coming your way. And Michael Chandler, of course, has been on a bit of a mission since the last Primus fight, which was, of course, the Bellator NYC. I was there for that. He beat Goichi Yamauchi, Bellator 192, back in January, and then beat Brandon Gertz April of 2018 in his last fight. So this is the bit of the return since then. As for one Primus, I believe he hasn't fought since then, age 33. Yes, he hasn't fought since June of 2017, excuse me. So it's been a bit of a while for him. This is going to be kind of interesting to get this back. And I have to say, I've said this before, I'm so happy to see big promotions back in Hawaii. Like, what's the big deal about having a big promotion in Hawaii? It's actually pretty simple. This is a place that used to be home to some of the biggest fights that mixed martial arts had to offer. Big fights happened there. And then when the UFC consolidated, and there was a general contraction in the market in terms of the outside UFC promotions, but when the UFC consolidated, they were just deprived essentially of promoters who were able to put on shows of significance. But it used to be a place where you had Icon Sport, Rumble in the Rock, Super Brawl, the whole bit. And I mean, more than that, you had Elite XC that was out there as well. And so it was just a place where a ton of MMA history at a significant level had happened. And then it all kind of went away. But now that the UFC seems to be loosening the reins a little bit on some other talent, and you're seeing that disperse to some of these other organizations. Now, some of these other organizations are able to be in a position where they can stage shows and fights of significance. And I think that's what you're seeing here. So I'm pretty excited for that. It's nice to see Hawaii back in action. All right, let's give him one more try here if we can. Let's go to our friend Michael Chandler back on the Skype. There he is. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you?
Yes. There we are. How are you, sir?
Man, I am living the dream, man. It's always awesome. These fight camps are so crazy because they start off, you have this long road ahead of you, and then all of a sudden you get within these last 2 weeks, you're chomping at the bit. I'm ready to fight tomorrow, ready to make weight tomorrow. So I'm just on cloud nine, man. Everything's firing on all cylinders, and I'm ready to go.
Are you ever not jacked and happy?
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago when I went three losses in a row, 688 days without a win, I had a nice little rough patch back then. But since then, recalibrated, reconditioned, and ready to go. So no, man, life is extremely good. I'm just extremely blessed. So I'm extremely blessed to be able to do what I do. So thank you for these kinds of opportunities, man. This is awesome.
All right, so let's talk about this. I always want to do this whenever I reconnect with you because I can never keep it straight. I know you were building a gym in Nashville, but you tell me you're in Florida. So what's the training situation you're currently in? What's the arrangement?
So I'm currently in someone else's home down in Florida, sleeping in someone else's bed down here in a VRBO vacation rental. I was just in Nashville this past weekend, mainly to see my wife and son because going too long without seeing them is just not good for my heart, you know. So it's one of those things where I've got such a great opportunity and such a short window of opportunity and such a great training scenario down here with Henry Hooft and Greg Jones and Kami Barzini and these coaches, and then the training partners from guys at the top of the UFC, guys at the top of Bellator, that I'm kind of back and forth, you know. But I do have training camp in my gym in Nashville, which is thriving and doing awesome with our MMA programs and our group fitness. I actually just went back this past weekend and ran one of our classes, our Iron Pow classes. So I love connecting with them. We got an awesome group there, and I got an awesome kind of Florida family down here and Tennessee family up there, fitness community. So life is good. I'm kind of between both places, but when it comes down to training for this fight, I'm down here most of the time.
All right, that makes sense. Is the goal to someday just have everything in Nashville?
You know, I always go back and forth. But yeah, the goal is to build. I mean, we have 3,500 square foot of mat space, 20 bags. We have a world-class mixed martial arts training facility as well as a world-class group fitness facility. So I mean, we have everything we need to build an awesome, phenomenal team in Nashville. We just opened 7 months ago, so obviously these things are going to take time. But as I continue to grow the MMA program, as I continue to hire great coaches, recruit great training partners, the goal is to be able to have a full-time, stable training environment there. And then, I mean, Henry Hooft and these guys, Kami and Greg, these guys are the coaches, going to be my coaches, I think, for the rest of my career. So I will never get away from them. So I will always be with them and training with them for these fights. So it'll be interesting.
You hopped around early in your career, earlier, I should say, and now you seem kind of steady. What changed?
You know, I think one thing, and I was talking to, you know, I don't forget who I was talking about the other day. When you talk about loyalty or you talk about, you know, team or camaraderie or this or that, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a individual sport. I am smart enough to realize that I have a short window of opportunity, and if I sacrifice that short window of opportunity because of quote-unquote loyalty or quote-unquote this or quote-unquote that, I'm really doing a disservice to myself, my wife, and who was my future child at the time, but now is my son. And to sacrifice that, I just wasn't going to do it. So hopping around for me was what's the best training situation, the best training scenario for me, for the individual. And if I'm firing on all cylinders, if I'm where I need to be, happy, healthy, and hard to kill, that's going to elevate whatever team I'm with. That's going to put my family in a financially stable situation. And at the end of the day, this is an individual sport. I will be the first to admit that I am selfish, but I will also be the first guy to get my shirt off my back and be the guy who comes in early with you or stays late with you and gives myself to the team and whatever team that I'm with. So this sport and being a looking at the sport like a business and a professional athlete, a professional fighter, you have to find that fine line between juggling your individual goals and needs with the individual or the goals of the team that you're with as a whole. And I've tried to do that, and I've been a favorite and a fun guy and a leader in every single gym that I've been in, and it's working well for me, and I don't plan on stopping now.
You ever faced any blowback for jumping around?
What's blowback, man? It's 2018, man. We're getting blowback right now for the shirt I'm wearing and the fact that my walls are white, and the fact that you got a black shirt on. I mean, everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants to say something, but at the end of the day, this sport's about me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think anybody who has been in the sport long enough realizes that I'm the talent, I'm the fighter, I step in the cage. I can't do it without my coaches, my training partners, my support system, but I have to make the best decisions. So the blowback doesn't mean a thing. Everybody's getting blowback, whether you're at the top, the bottom, or somewhere in the middle. So you get in this sport long enough, you get thick enough skin to realize that what people are saying doesn't really matter, and things are working well for me, and you can hate me from afar and blow back as long as you want.
So that's a yes?
That's a yeah. No, kind of. But that's kind of the thing. Everyone loves to insert their opinions. So, it's kind of one of those things where I'm enjoying the ride and enjoying anything that anybody says about me.
All right, so let's talk about something that's kind of interesting that's happened. I was bringing it up, noting that you're going to be fighting in Hawaii against Brent Primus. I want to talk about that in just a second. But you're an interesting case, and here's what I mean. So the UFC appears to be letting their clutch on the reins of all the talent in MMA glow a little bit. Bellator's made some key acquisitions. You know about all of them. Sage Northcutt just signed with one. Eddie Alvarez, your former opponent, signed with one. Demetrius Johnson, and some others. But they're still a little bit different, right? Because Sage is kind of pre-prime. And I meant this before. This is not a slight, but I don't think Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson, while still very, very good fighters, I don't think they're at their absolute peak. But you did spend your prime, and currently in your prime, outside of the UFC. But it seems to have worked out for you. Like, when you look around at MMA now, like, do you look back on your experience and staying with Bellator? I'm going to guess you have no regrets about it, but I'm wondering if you could speak about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have any regrets. I'd be lying to say that my head doesn't hit the pillow and I don't think about these matchups that could possibly await me in my future, or I could have taken the opportunity to take the reins of had I tested free agency and looked at other possibilities. But that mainly comes from the fans. That mainly comes from everybody constantly reaching out to me and tweeting and saying, dream matchup this, dream matchup that. Now we're talking about trades. Oh, God, I want to see Khabib and Chandler, and I want to see this and this guy and Chandler, and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, it plants that what if in your head. But, man, when you talk about making a business decisions, when you talk about slowly but surely, brick by boring brick, building a brand that's going to last and building a brand that is going to be extremely lucrative for the short window of opportunity. And I keep bringing up a short window of opportunity because you're a downright fool if you think that this is a long career and that it can't be all snatched away from you at a moment's notice. So you have to make the best decision you can with the information that you're given. And I've done that time and time again. Myself, my management, we've protected ourselves. We put ourselves in good scenarios. I've made myself somewhat of an indispensable asset by being the greatest employee Bellator has ever had and probably will ever have when you talk about talent, excitement, and composure outside of the cage and being a good brand ambassador outside of the cage. And it's simple. It's simple. A plus B equals C. You do the right thing. You work extremely hard. You put on exciting fights. You make yourself an indispensable asset. And, when people come knocking at the door, you figure out what's next, and you see what's next. And by the way, I'm by no means a young spring chicken, but I'm by no means even close to past my prime. I think I'm still getting faster, still getting stronger, still getting more athletic. I'm eating my chicken and broccoli. I'm drinking my supplements. I'm taking care of my body. This body will last till I'm 37, 38, 40 years old if I wanted to. I think my best days of fighting are still years ahead of me. So if you think that this last contract that I signed was the last contract that I'm going to sign, you're sorely mistaken. I have a lot of gas left in the tank, a lot of big matchups in my future, and I'm excited to see how everything unfolds.
Darian Caldwell, the bantamweight champion of Bellator, is going to be heading over to Japan, taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. You must have seen that, because I know you, Michael. You must have seen that and thought, ooh, I need to call Scott. I need to put that on his radar. That might be something I'm interested in doing, right?
Immediately, man. I mean, I got the opportunity, the blessing of fighting Akihiro Gono and retiring him. Like, I was that young guy coming up, and he was a guy who was a little bit, kind of, I think, maybe past his prime. And his last fight was against me, and I finished him the first round. And with that, and the couple of the Japanese fans that I've spoken to, or the Japanese managers that I've spoken to, they're like, man, you got a huge following over in Japan. People love you because of that Gono fight, blah, blah, blah. I would love to headline a show at the Saitama, what's it called? Saitama Arena.
Saitama Super Arena. Yeah.
Saitama Super Arena, in a ring, maybe wearing wrestling shoes, if that's still allowed, like something like that. I mean, these days, I mean, it's about the big fights, the big opportunities, the eyeballs. It's about what gets me excited. Fighting Patricky Pitbull for the third time doesn't get me excited. Fighting David Rickles for the third time doesn't get me excited. Like, there's a couple fights. There's definitely fights in the lightweight division that get me excited. Some of these young guys coming up, Patricio down at 45, some of the guys up at 70. I mean, there's some definite things that get me excited, and Bellator has continued to sign, like as you alluded to earlier, sign top tier talent, and not just guys that are over the hill, but Ryan Bader, who was ranked top 5 in the world whenever he came over. Same thing with Phil Davis and Benson Henderson, Rory McDonald, and this welterweight tournament. Bellator, and I knew this last contract I signed, and then this contract I signed, Bellator has continued to evolve and continue to grow and continue to put the right pieces in place. And just because Bellator wasn't where it was at when people wanted it to be where it was at, it's continued to grow and continue to build. And we got some legitimate mixed martial arts promotions out there. It's not just the UFC anymore. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see the growth of everything. And yes, I want cross promotions. I want trades. I want all kinds of different things happening. I want this MMA landscape to turn back into the wild west, and let's have some fun, man.
Last question about this before we get to your premise fight. We're running short on time here a little bit. Did Rory McDonald in his fight against Mousasi dissuade you a little bit about moving up?
I wouldn't say that fight. I mean, I wouldn't say that fight in general. I mean, if you're talking about a smaller opponent going up and fighting a bigger opponent, I mean, yeah, of course, that's always the fear. That's always the scary part about coming up. Rory's 6'2" and 199 pounds probably. But I just want big fights. I want exciting fights. It's exciting to see. I'm excited to watch this welterweight tournament, see what the fallout looks like, see who ends up shining at the end. And either way, I'm excited to go out there and get that lightweight strap. And then there's hopefully some big matchups after that. And I have continued to talk to Scott and Rich and these guys about signing big talent at 155. So we'll see.
All right, so let's talk about this. Brent Primus will be facing him December 14th at the Blaisdell Arena in Hawaii. You have fought twice since then. You've won both. He has not fought since you guys faced each other. Why? What do you make of that?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. We both have been fighting the same amount of time. Actually, I think he's been fighting 1 year longer than I have because he started an amateur career, and he has 8 fights and I have 22. He averages 0.4, 0.5 fights per year, basically. So he doesn't even average 1 fight per year. It's a little bit sad, to be honest with you. But good for him. He's put himself in a great situation. I gave him the opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden, the most iconic arena in the entire world, and he went out there and was able to get a win over me in the biggest stage of both of our lives. And now he gets the opportunity to have a free Hawaiian vacation. He just has to get beat up to earn it. So it's everything's working out well for him. He's doing his thing. I'm on my way to the top, and I'm not really focused on talking about him is a little tough for me because first of all he can't defend himself. Because there's nothing really positive that he can say. There's nothing of substance that he can say that doesn't sound like complete BS because he is a part-time fighter and he doesn't fight a lot and he doesn't deserve to step in the cage with me. So I've gotten these over this last training camp. I've decided there's really not a ton of things to say about him besides the fact that I'm going to go out there and I've never actually wanted to inflict as much bodily harm on another individual as I do for this fight. I've always wanted to win. I've always wanted to be dominant. I've always wanted to score points. I've always wanted to be dominant, but I've never actually wanted to beat someone within an inch of their life and watch them gasp for air and question their whole entire life. this is that fight. This is the fight that is going to happen.
So what is it? Is it the sense that there's a rivalry there, that you haven't had the chance to get your title back, that it's you thought that the win was a fluke? Like, what is the source exactly of the animosity? Because maybe he was talking at first, but I haven't heard from him in a little bit of a while. So what is the source of the hostility?
I think, I mean, there is no rivalry. There is no, oh, this is going to be a good fight. Let's call a spade a spade. This is a world-class mixed martial artist going out there and fighting a guy who can't even hold his opponent's jockstrap. You know, that's what this is. And I'm going to go out there and finish him in the first round, and that's going to be that. But I think it's just a culmination of everything. The fact that I've had to wait for so long. I mean, most of the time when you have that kind of scenario happen, an injury is or a win is by the result of an injury. Most of the time, it's an immediate rematch, right? And we begged for the fight. I begged for the fight, and we just couldn't make it happen. So I fought the highest touted prospect in the lightweight division, in Goiti Yamauchi, beat him within an inch of his life, and then went out there and finished Brandon Gertz. Since then, as all the while begging to get this fight back, and the fact that he's been sitting up in Oregon, sitting on this belt, teaching kids jiu-jitsu is just. It's a travesty. It's holding up the division. He needs to just step into that cage, take his beating like a man that he is, and I just think that's what needs to happen, and it's going to be violent.
Well, you have certainly sold me. It's December 14th. Bellator and USO present Primus versus Chandler 2. It's the main event. It'll air on Paramount Network and DAZN. Michael Chandler, stay tan and jacked. Good, sir.
Hey, always, if you ain't tan and jacked, you ain't doing it right.
There he goes. All right. Thank you so much to him. And we go to our last, but certainly not our least guest. I am so excited about this, man. We're talking about one of the most positive guys in martial arts, makes a big difference in everybody's life, does so much good work in the community, and is a trainer to one of the top stars in the sport. We're joined now on Skype by the inimitable Rener Gracie. There he is. Look at that. How you doing, Rener?
What's up, Luke?
Where are you? Are you at the Gracie Academy?
I'm here at Gracie University headquarters, Southern California.
Boy, you want to talk about a rock-solid Skype connection. Look at that, HD. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. All right, man, let's get to this. First of all, are you you're going to be cornering Brian, I'm assuming on Saturday, right?
That's correct, yes.
When do you head out there?
We head out Tuesday. Standard procedure, show up Tuesday, workouts Wednesday, cut the weight, maybe press conference Thursday, weigh in Friday, fight Saturday, fly home Sunday, and celebrate.
Certainly. All right, let's talk about this this moment for Brian. You as his trainer, seems like his friend and mentor. Before I ask what it means for Brian, what does it actually mean for you to see one of your students ascend to heights like this?
Well, it's not just, right, one of your students. And, you know, everyone's asking me, you know, how excited we are for the belt and what a big deal this is this weekend. And I smile and I nod and I go, yeah, it's exciting, you know. But the reality is, and this is true for anyone who's known Brian since he was a kid. And for me, it was when he was 12, 13 years old, when he first came in for class after having gotten beat up in a street fight and then signed up just to learn how to defend himself. Anyone who knows Brian from that era knows that Brian already won the title, have made it out of the challenges that he faced and the difficult circumstances for him and his family that he faced early on, and really the life that he lived, which was not by any means a positive one, by conventional standards. For Brian to have made it out of what he was involved with and to now be competing as a professional athlete on the level that he's competing at, he already won. So for me, I look at this and I go, oh man, this is all extra, because there were many times throughout his earlier years where we didn't know if Brian was going to make it out. You know, there were times where I wouldn't see him for 3 months at a time because of challenges and, you know, not drugs, but gangs and other things that he was involved with. No drugs, to be clear, but gangs and other things that he was involved with back then. And it was just such a negative lifestyle that I wouldn't hear about him for 3 months, and he would show up and he would say, man, I lost one of my best friends who just got shot. And I'm like thinking, all I can think is, man, it's your best friend right now. At some point it could be you. And it was a very, interesting balance of being there for him as a teacher And as someone who could listen to him and he can help him reflect and try to make the right choices. So for me, listen, we're already celebrating. This is already being here is already a victory in itself. And yes, winning the UFC featherweight championship would be phenomenal. Really for Brian, right? I'm just so excited for him, knowing what he came from, that this would be something so meaningful for him and his family.
Given the background and given his sterling ability to just blow through the division in the way that he did, had some tough moments, but certainly he came out on top, right? How unique of a student is Brian Ortega?
Well, so listen, Brian, what made him most unique, it was never his athleticism. It was never his power or his speed. It was Brian's ability to absorb information and then implement, at a faster rate than really anyone else. And this started very early on, and we noticed it from the very beginning. Even as a kid, he was doing adult classes, but he was only 13 years old, training with grown men. And we would show him a technique, and he would nail it. And within his first year, Brian was the kid that if you showed up, let's just say to Gracie Academy back then, and you wanted to try a class, and you're a big guy, and you show up and say, yeah, I'm not sure if this stuff works. I'd be like, okay, go roll with the little blue-eyed skinny kid over there. And Brian would choke you out in, just a few minutes, and then you would sign up. So he was like our undercover enforcer back then. And that's where I gave him the nickname Triangle or T-City. Triangle City was the original name, and then it got too long to say, too much of a mouthful. And I just started calling him T-City because he would just triangle choke everyone. They would grab him, they would manhandle them until they were tapping out. And that just became the case. And it started with triangles, and now it's evolved to so many other skill sets that we've developed over the years, and he's utilized so effectively there in the UFC. But it's an implementation speed that is unique. And I've seen it with other top talent that I've worked with, but Brian really does stand alone in his ability to learn something and then apply it in the chaos, right? And that's why, for so many other fighters, when they get deep into that, second, third, and now fourth and fifth round, the championship rounds, Brian hasn't been tested there too much, but when they get deeper into the fight, things start to get, more predictably sluggish and ineffective. Whereas Brian, he's just as dangerous in the third round as he is in the first round. And we know based on his, unique records of, consecutive third round finishes that he holds, there's no surprise to me that that's a record that he holds because of the fact that he thrives in the chaos. He thrives in the less than favorable circumstances.
How would you describe his jiu-jitsu to somebody who just didn't have just didn't know exactly what they were looking at? It's amazing. I was saying this to, we had Max on earlier in the show. I went back and I watched all of Brian's fights in the UFC. I try to explain to people, usually a submission, sometimes you can snatch it, but you usually have to build towards it. You have to take steps to get there. And it's not that he doesn't, but when he finds a head or he finds an arm, he just locks into the groove immediately. It's very rare you can find someone like that. As his predominant trainer in this regard, how would you describe, it's a broad question, how would you describe his jiu-jitsu?
Man, it's tough, but one way to think about it is if you put, two jiu-jitsu practitioners inside of a large barrel and you close it at the top of a hill and then you rolled that barrel down the hill, by the time the barrel got to the bottom of the hill, Brian would have the other person in a chokehold. So Brian has a unique ability where jiu-jitsu is, even though jiu-jitsu is seemingly to the spectator a very unpredictable sport where they're just wrestling and flying all over the place, it actually is very systematic. And what Brian has done well is he's taken a non-systematic approach to the systematic art of jiu-jitsu. And in that sense, he's setting techniques up and he's catching submissions and creating opportunities out of less conventional positions, holds, grips. And that creativity, that freedom to express, that's very artistic in a way, is what's unique about Brian, is that he doesn't set up a triangle choke in the way that everyone else sets up a triangle choke. And he's not setting up a Darce or a guillotine choke in the way that everyone else is setting it up. And many of these unique setups we talk about, right, in the gym here, and we go over them and we practice them and we kind of, prepare for them. But many of them we don't talk about. Many of them he wasn't taught these. And many of them he didn't do it for the first time until the actual fight happens. And that's what's unique, is Brian is not limited by any form or structure. He's the most fluid person when it comes to applying these techniques in a dynamic, ever-changing fight against the opponent. So that's what I would say is creativity with setups. He's not following the conventional patterns, and that's what makes him so hard to train for.
You know what I also like about Brian is he's got swag. He's a young guy, good-looking kid. He's got confidence about him. But in an age, and you know this, Rener, even in the jiu-jitsu world, it's like, oh my God, it's just everyone's trolling everybody else. And there's these ridiculous things that happen on social media. He sort of stays above the fray, doesn't he? So he's the cool guy, but without having to resort to, he doesn't get too far away from being a martial artist while being a fighter. And I think in a day and age like this, that's rare, and it's a welcome refresher.
Yeah, and I think I think you just nailed it on the head there at the end. MMA has created something very interesting, right? Where the elements that make up MMA are martial arts. But now, after 25 years, MMA, the acronym, is a sport of its own, is an entity of its own. So it's also a spectator sport of its own. And there are many people today who are coming up in MMA without the values, the integrity, the respect, and the discipline that martial arts provides. And no one's perfect, right? Even the most martial artists of martial arts in MMA are not perfect people. But you can tell when there is a thread and there is an element to their training and their upbringing in the arts that is actually the martial arts, right? The traditions and the values of martial arts that were so common before mixed martial arts, when everyone practiced their individual karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, kung fu, and they were all segmented. But now that it's been 25 years of a kind of a combined entity, there are people who are only a product of that entity and are just learning from their 25-year-old kids today who were not even born when the UFC started, let's just say. And now they're a product of that mentality where it's about money, it's about fighting, it's about violence, it's about entertainment, where martial artists, it's not about any of that. It's about self-defense, discipline, and ultimately, even empathy to a certain extent, right? Like one of the greatest elements of jiu-jitsu is the ability to neutralize violence without violence. So we teach that to our students, and Brian learned that his whole life. So what you're seeing now is someone who has the spotlight, but still has those martial arts values before MMA, the sport, even though he's applying it in the context of the sport, which is beautiful to see. And you see it with many others. And one that immediately jumps out is a guy like Lyoto Machida, who's the most consummate martial artist and most respectful person in the cage, yet he's competing in a sport of MMA. And the question is, why is that? Because he, like the Gracie family, is a multi-generational family of martial artists with those traditions and values. And I think that's, today, unfortunately, it's kind of like the minority, right? It's kind of, these martial artists have become the minority in a sport of MMA, which for better or worse has somewhat, stripped some of those values away. And it's understandable, although it's unfortunate. And the other unintended and concerning byproduct of that is now you have civilians who are not professional competitors who are learning the sport of MMA, but aren't getting those values. And they're basically being taught these weapons of mass destruction, right? Chokes and arm bars and, striking techniques and all the elements of MMA, but they're not being taught the values of martial arts. And as a result, they become liabilities to society. You see what I'm saying? Someone who learns martial arts and the respect that comes with it is not going to use it for the wrong reasons. But someone who learns the elements of MMA and does not have the respect or the integrity could very well use it for the wrong reasons. And we can contemplate what many of those reasons would be. We don't even need to. They can commit crimes with these very skills, as I've seen happen. And now with a very video recording society, we've seen videos of it, right? So that's a big concern, but that's a topic for a different day, I suppose.
Let's get back to Brian here for just a second. Max is a tough fight for anybody, and you guys know that better than I do. You made a point about Brian having this ability to apply critical thinking skills in these really terrible, very difficult moments. What makes, to me, in my mind, this fight so interesting is who's going to make the fight their kind of fight. Because as you know, Rener, Max is when he wants to be, because sometimes he'll just throw down, right? But when he wants to be, he can really sit behind the jab and move very carefully and mind the distance and shut down the takedown. That seems to be the biggest threat, right? If your guy thrives in chaos, the other guy can create a system where there is no chaos.
Yeah. So, this is everyone's question, right? And listen, we have nothing but respect, back to the martial values in this situation, the highest level of respect for Max and what he's accomplished and his talents as a fighter. I know Max's coach, Rylan Lazarus and Gracie Techniques there in Hawaii, really good friend, amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner under Pedro Sauer there. So it's very much like all in the family for this one. And Max, is an incredible striker. And yes, when he wants to be, can be very elusive, very hard to get a hold of. But I told Brian, I said, Brian, listen, what has happened is you have, you've essentially done something very unique where initially he was simply a threat of submission, 100% submission concern and a threat there for Initially, it was very much of a submission threat to the division. But what has happened is he came in, he knocked out Frankie Edgar, right? And when he did that, all of a sudden the whole division is on notice now. And the question is, what do you watch out for, right? And I said, Brian, this is beautiful because it shows what amazing development you've had in your striking game with Coach James there and the rest of his team. So he's done something very beautiful where, someone who's never been finished gets knocked out on their feet in the first round. And you have, arguably the tightest jiu-jitsu submission in MMA right now. So it creates a situation where he's threatening in both categories. And it really boils down to, what kind of fight they want to make it. What's my favorite part about the whole fight, because there's so much to not be predictable about this, is that we have 5 rounds, and I think that's very interesting. And in my opinion, knowing what I know about Brian, 5 rounds is an advantage because, like I said, we've seen it in his 3-round fights for so many years, where as the fight went on, he became more dangerous towards the end. And I suspect the same will be true as we creep into those championship rounds.
It's amazing to me is if he gets, I have the highest level of respect for Max Holloway. If Brian beats him, where do you think Brian would rank pound for pound? Because I honestly believe if you finish Frankie Edgar and you defeat or finish Max Holloway, holy crap, man, you are doing something very, very different than the rest of your contemporaries. Where would that put him?
Listen, it put him towards the top. But, a lot of people outside like to speculate about that, but Brian's not speculating about that, nor are we as his closest, coaches and friends. It really is one fight at a time, and we have such a major feat here in Max Holloway. And, I'm as excited as everyone else to just see that these 2 artists go in there and do what they do best. But I know that if he steals this deal, I think it'll skyrocket him, toward near the top of that list.
Now, before we say goodbye, and we really appreciate your time, I want to make sure we have to get this in. You have launched, you and I believe Huron together, if I'm not mistaken, have launched a GoFundMe. It's called Justice for Jamal. I'm going to tweet it out from my account. Hopefully we can get MMA Fight to retweet it. So let me see if I can understand this. There's a Syrian refugee who lives in the UK who was bullied. Why are you raising money for him?
Yeah, so we've done this in the past where kids who are really horrifically bullied in wherever they live, and we become aware of it because oftentimes it's caught on video. People let us know, we find out about it, and then we sponsor them to come to California to basically be bully proofed, right? Because that's what we do as a business every single day is we empower people to take a stand and defend themselves. And we've done this successfully for other kids in the past, and this kid's in the UK. And every time I've done it for other kids in the past, after we do it, and we should put a video on the internet of the transformation and the before and after. It's remarkable. Literally 1 week of training here at Gracie University, and everything changes for this child and their ability to assert themselves. And in many cases, they're never bullied again. In a recent case, Austin McDaniel, 5 years later, he became a Marine after graduating high school, after getting beat up on this video. We called him in, we changed it, went to the Marines, and now he's just a monster, strong guy, handsome, athletic, and just everything changed because something changed. And we see this kid, Jamal, who got really, really badly bullied, him and his sister in the UK at their school. They're Syrian refugees living there. And we thought, wow, so many times people have asked us, how can they help us make these transformations more possible, more frequently? And we saw this one and said, man, we can absolutely help him. And he's dropped out of school. So everything is going down for this family right now. So we launched a GoFundMe campaign to raise the funds that would allow Jamal, his sister, and his family to come to California, spend at least 1 week with us training here to really get him off to the right start and bully-proof him, build that confidence, give him the tools to defend himself on the highest level, and then send him back and then sponsor his continued training in the UK. So the reality is anyone who does jiu-jitsu knows that's all this kid needs is, some attention, some good instruction, and some motivation, and really the belief that he's worth defending. And we can provide that, with a week here in California. So we're going to make it happen. And if you could, put out the link and people can donate there, and any surplus funds, we're not charging for our time at all. We're going to fly them out. We're going to teach them for free. And these are all to cover travel expenses and training when they return back to the UK, so they can keep this skill alive. And, and it is a perishable skill, so we want to keep them going once we get them back to where they live.
Yeah, I just tweeted it out. We'll definitely make sure we get the word out about that. By the way, as a former Marine myself, I have to say thank you very much for doing that. You could change lives with martial arts. Before you go, Rener, let me just ask you about this. There's a point I'll make, and then I'll ask a question about it. I have to tell you, I'm not worried about the future of MMA, but I am worried that the kinds of really elite black belts that used to make their way over, like a Brian Ortega, but certainly I'm thinking more of like a Demian Maia, Fabricio Verdum, these kinds of guys. A lot of them are just going to stay in jiu-jitsu now. They can make money that way, which is a good thing, right? You kind of want that to a degree. But I do wonder, like, what's going to happen to jiu-jitsu and MMA without them. However, I have to tell you, the UFC signing, Rener Gracie, wow. You want to talk about good news. For folks who are not familiar with him, I know they just know him as Rickson's son. Even in MMA, his jiu-jitsu is almost without parallel. Can you just tell the audience what they're in store for with this kid, please?
Yeah. So my cousin Crone just got signed to the UFC. It's very exciting. People who don't know, just get ready for every touch, every contact that is made to be a deadly one for his opponent. That's how dangerous it is. And I think that, I think people see some of that with Brian, right? They feel that if he gets a hold of you, the fight's over, as Joe Rogan has said so enthusiastically. And that will continue to be the case when Crone makes his way over to the UFC. He's incredibly talented. He's been working a lot on his distance and his standing game. So, he's done incredibly well in Japan against some really tough opponents. So it's the perfect time to bring him over. I'm excited to see as much as anybody else. But yeah, in terms of, there is a difference. You're right. There is a difference in the jiu-jitsu. There are lots of black belts, and then there are, there is the next tier above that. And Crone absolutely, it falls under that category. So the world can be very excited to see someone who goes in there with a very specific plan, known to him, known to his opponents, but still unstoppable. And those are sometimes the most beautiful ones to watch.
Don't forget to donate to Justice for Jamal. They're almost there. They just need a little bit more of a donation, and they will reach their goal. It's for a phenomenal cause. Rener, it's a real thrill for me to get to talk to you. I could talk to you about jiu-jitsu theory and all this kind of stuff that's happening for a million years, but I know you're a busy man with a lot to do. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for making time for me. Everyone go donate to Justice for Jamal, and best of luck. Cannot wait to see you corner. I cannot wait to see Brian Ortega in action.
Thank you very much. Everyone out there, follow me, Rener Gracie, on Instagram, Twitter, and GracieUniversity.com. For anyone out there who's kind of couch surfing but not really getting down with jiu-jitsu, we got you covered.
There you go. One of the best. Rener Gracie. Thank you so much, Rener. There he goes. All right, man. What a thrill for me that is. Cannot wait for Saturday. I cannot wait for Saturday. It is going to be a ridiculous night of fights. All right. It is time now, ladies and gentlemen, for the sound off. Okay, there we go to my friend in the back.
Yo.
He is the, I don't know, what are you?
Yeah, at this point, I don't even know. But
I'm trying to think of some stupid-ass comparison. But here you are, Danny Segura. Time for the sound off. This is where we take your calls. Number to call, as always, 844-866-2468. Or if you're international, you can email the MMA Hour at voxmedia.com.
That's right.
All right, man. Tee us up here. By the way, can you make sure that we retweet from MMA Fighting, the Rener thing?
Yeah,
they're this close to getting across the finish line.
I saw just a few hundred, right?
Yeah, they were asking for $25,000, and they're at 24,640.
Okay,
something like that. So they're almost there.
Yeah,
just need a little bit
make
more.
It happen.
All right, what do we got on store? Take it away, Maestro.
So, I know this is an MMA show, but the biggest fight over the weekend was obviously Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
We have a few questions about that, but we do have MMA questions, so don't worry. We'll get to those in a second.
All right.
So let's get started.
Hey, Luke Thomas. This is David calling from Toronto, Canada, home of the 2019 NBA champion Raptors. My question is about the Deontay Wilder and the Tyson Fury fight. In the 12th round, when Deontay Wilder got that knockdown, do you think that saved him from losing the fight and giving the decision of a draw? Or do you think the decision of a draw was inevitable anyways because of the nature of boxing judging, just the way that we know the sport is corrupt and the American guy was going to get the favorable call in the United States? Thank you very much and keep up the good work.
So this is a great question. I don't know why people keep calling it like boxing judging. It's like, dude, it's the same commission.
Yeah.
It's the exact same commission. Different judges. By the way, one of the judges was Mexican. I think one was Japanese. And one was Canadian. None of them were from the United States. None of them. And none from the UK either, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. But the answer is one of the scorecards was 113-113. So even if they had given that to Deontay Wilder, it would have been 10-9, which would not have been enough to sway it. Fury would have won. So I guess technically, if you believe that he was going to win no matter what, then there's nothing I can say to you. But if you believe that they're just bad judges, then yes, it would have made a bit of a difference.
How'd you score the fight, by the way?
7-5. Well, I mean, that's not quite right because they're 10-8s.
Yeah.
But essentially 7-5 for, I thought it was a comfortable win for Tyson Fury. What about you?
Yeah. I didn't keep track of every single round, but I think you won. I gave Wilder, I think, the second, and then the other 2 rounds where he dropped.
I think that's about right, yeah.
Where he dropped Fury.
I cannot get over him getting up.
I still can't. Yeah, I can't believe
Dude, when they when people like took the call of, and by the way, Paulie Malignaggi, I know people don't like him. Phenomenal job. Phenomenal job calling out the judging.
Yep.
Al Bernstein did a great job. Shouts to Mauro Ranallo, who killed it. Yep. But the people who took that clip, and then when Fury gets up, they put the Undertaker music on top of it.
Yeah.
Was actually kind of awesome, I have to admit.
I mean, as soon as I heard Mamma Mia from Mauro, I'm like, all right, this fight's done. It's a wrap. I'm like, wow. And then he gets up. It was straight up like, have you ever seen any zombie movie? The first infected, they always have a good emphasis on them where it's like, they're dead, and then all of a sudden, boom, they come back to life. That was literally what I saw. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Dude, when his head bounced, that's what I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
Him getting up is, I don't know how you medically explain something like that. I've never seen anything like that.
I believe that's called magic.
The magic of boxing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Amazing. All right, let's move on and let's keep talking about the scorings here of that fight.
Right.
I mean, this is Luke from Dallas, and I guess I just wanted to know which boxing sin you think was more egregious, giving Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder a tie, or giving Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez in their first fight a tie. Thank you guys. Love what you do. Have a great day.
I would say the first one. Sorry, what am I saying? Fury versus Wilder, I think easier to call.
Yeah.
That one was harder to call in my judgment.
Yeah.
This one was not a difficult call. But if you ever watched my live chat, I've talked about this before. This idea that, like, how do I explain it? You have subjective criteria. Now, you knock them down, you don't have to go 10-8, but the tradition is you go 10-8.
Right, yeah.
But more than that, especially in MMA, where people don't understand this. If you've never sat ringside or cage sat on a fight, it does look different than if you're watching back or even on TV. It doesn't feel the same.
You miss a lot of the action, especially if it's
100%
cage, yeah.
And so it's hard to explain. It's like you have this experiential difference. You have your own criteria about what matters to you, what doesn't. You have the judges don't sit together; they sit at different positions. So if a fight is taking place far away from you at the other end, it can be hard to see. Versus if it's right on top of you and a big shot lands, it can really have an impact. All of those things, plus incompetence, plus a bad scoring system that just lets you have latitude. Dude, I've said this before. People like you could have a fight where there's a case for X to win and a case for Y to win.
Yeah.
It's like, let me get this straight. You can have a judging system where either guy can win, and you're wondering why you're upset with the results. Why wouldn't you be if you live in a world where it's possible and plausible that either person could put together a winning effort? It's a super bankrupt way to adjudicate athletic contests, but it's the one we have. And as I mentioned in the weigh-in, it's the one we're stuck with, baby.
Yeah. I would say this one was probably more of for me, this was a lot easier to judge than the Triple G Canelo. I have a much easier time judging MMA fights than I do boxing. And the Triple G Canelo, although I thought Triple G in the first one, he did a lot better. I still thought it was pretty competitive. Like, it was back and forth, With this one, it was clear that sure, Wilder had the power and he's probably the biggest power puncher right now. But it was clear to me that Fury was the better boxer, and just the way he was tagging him up with the jab and moving. For me, over that course of 12 rounds, I saw who the better fighter is. With Triple G Canelo, it was still kind of up in the air even till the very end.
King Mo was a big believer that Canelo won the first one, but take that for what it's worth.
All right, well, let's keep the boxing theme boxing-esque, because this is not exactly
want to talk about
pertain to the fight, but somebody from our team.
Hey, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Segura. This is Luke from Dallas.
Same caller, by the way.
My question is, after every big fight, it seems like every weekend, people want to bring up who's the new GOAT, who's the GOAT, And I guess after the Wilder Fury fight, I want to ask you guys, is Esther Lin the GOAT of photography? Because some of these pictures she was getting were crazy. Thank you guys so much. Watch the show every week. Love you guys. Stay safe. Have a great day.
Yes,
all right. We love you too. Esther Lin, my God. Did you see her photos from
last 5 weeks? Yeah, Mark Muramundi tweeted it out.
Insane.
Here's a really easy way to understand it. Who is the most talented person at MMA fighting? It's Esther, right? She is the most pound for pound for what, like, in terms of their individual. I mean, she's obviously a better photographer than us. I don't mean that. What I mean is, at doing what she does, she is better than the rest of us at doing what we do. She is far and away the most talented person at MMA fighting. And, dude, it's like, how do you replace that? Yeah. I mean, dude, they could fire me now and replace me. I'm not that indispensable. You can't replace her. What, they're going to hire you? You'd be up there just Snapchatting with your iPhone and shit, She's, she's one of a kind. Yeah, she's got a very unique eye, and let me say this, though. Let me say this. I also think that he doesn't get enough credit. I think he's also very exceptional, is Ryan Loco. He does some stuff for PFL and some other businesses. Ryan Loco is a very good photographer as well, and not enough people recognize that, so I'd like to take a moment to do that.
All right. So we got boxing out of the way.
All right, finally.
Let's talk about MMA.
All right.
Hey, this is the Jank calling from Gainesville. Just wondering, where does RDA go from here? He's kind of stuck in that in-between welterweight and lightweight. He's just too big to make those cuts to 55, it would seem, and then now it's coming back to haunt him because these other guys coming down from, 200 pounds or so, the size and the strength seems to be an issue as much as the technical ability. So where does he go now? Also, how do I pay the $20 to get unblocked? Just tell me where to send it. It's at Shady Swisha. And sorry I back-talked you. Thanks, guys.
You're about to make some money.
I don't tolerate that sass. RDA. So I made this point when he fought Usman. First of all, Usman, people were like, oh, Usman's just better. I am perfectly willing to believe that Usman is just better. But Usman was clearly also physically bigger and stronger. Yes. It's just a reality, okay? So both can be true. It's not one or the other. I don't want to take anything away from Kamaru Usman. Yes, he's the better fighter, hands up, I admit it. But he was also bigger. And so I made this point. Everybody, when I did I not say this on MMA Beat on Thursday? If somebody was like down a weight class and they jump up and they have immediate success, everyone goes, there it is. Yeah. There it is. Cutting weight, overrated. And then invariably they begin to lose fights because that's overrated in terms of what value it provides, not cutting weight. It's good for your health. I don't know how competitively good it is. Yeah. And then I'm like, this is the point. It's like, dude, why do you think he was cutting to 55? For that reason. It's because you got Kamaru Usmans up there that are just too talented and too big to deal with. That's why he was cutting down. So the answer is 165 is the answer.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because if you look at the guys he fought at welterweight that weren't wrestlers, he beat Robbie Lawler, who was a former champion, Neil Magny, who's very game, and Tarek Safedin, who obviously Strikeforce champ, former Strikeforce champ. But then once you run into the wrestlers, that's the real test. Because in the striking, you can be a little undersized and, have success, be successful just fine. It's mostly, manipulating your body, around your opponents. Here, you're actually, you gotta, engage in the grappling, which, size always plays a big difference there. So for me to finally see like somebody be successful going up a weight class, I want to see him against the wrestler. A striker, it tells you something, but not, not the whole picture. My guess next for RDA, man, if that 165 division doesn't come up next, fine, stick around welterweight, but be a little smarter with, with the type of matchups you get. Back to back, Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman, probably outside of Tyron Woodley, the two best wrestlers in that division. Obviously, Ben Askren now in there, but he hasn't officially made his debut. Man, just get some strikers, Wrestlers.
Easier said than done. Yeah. These guys want the title, man, and you got to go through absolute murderers to do it.
Very true.
All right.
Let's talk about Joe Schilling and something that happened during his fight.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Luke and Danny. This is Jason calling from White Plains, New York. Just wanted your thoughts on a fight from the prelims on the Bellator show. Not sure if you saw it this weekend since there was a lot of MMA, but it was a fight between Joe Schilling and Will Morris. Will Morris's corner threw in the towel after a tough first round, but it's debatable. Maybe he could have came back out and done something in that fight. Do you think it was a good decision on Will Morris's corner to throw in the towel for his fight against Joe Schilling? Thanks again. Have a good one.
So, by the way, I'm going to talk about that fight on the Monday Morning Analyst coming up next. So we get right to it. As I understand it, I believe what had happened was, first of all, Will Morris took. I'm not here to be demeaning, but he took a serious beating. Okay, Joe Schilling was all over him like white on rice, and took virtually no damage. And I also think that the right arm or hand or something of Morris was broken because he had trouble. It was dangling a little bit. And he had trouble moving it. I think it was part of the equation. If they had just stopped it because of the ass whooping, I would not have. I wouldn't have minded at all. But I think they stopped it because it's like, dude, you're getting beat up and you have real no way to defend yourself. By the way, that break could get worse. It could go through the skin, or God only knows whether complication medically could happen. So, big shouts to the corner of Will Morris for having the willingness. And did you see him protest? He was bitter, Will Morris.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This is ridiculous. I can keep going. And his corner was like, no, you definitely cannot. That's what the sport needs. And these people who protect these guys from themselves. I said this before. Everyone's like, you ask the fighter, what about your thing about your corner not stopping it? Good. I'm glad they didn't stop it. Why are you asking the fighter? The whole idea is that the corner is supposed to have decision-making skills over them, not in accordance with them. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice seeing that because it wasn't like he was getting only smoked in the stand-up department, and we know that he's, Joe Schilling is an excellent striker. So you're like, all right, maybe if you take the fight to the ground, he also took a bit of a beating on the ground, and Joe Schilling's ground game was looking good. So yeah, I mean, there was, with a broken hand, very little chance for a comeback. We need to see more of that, and take a page out of guys like Mark Hunt. 13-13 and, still a top star in MMA and, at the top of his weight class. Look, in boxing, maybe, it becomes a little harder because losses mean a lot, but not in MMA. So take advantage of that, Fight for another day.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Here we're going to touch, all right, we'll see. This is a surprise question.
All right, let's see.
Think wisely.
Hey, Luke, it's Bryce calling from Coast MMA again. I had a fun question for you. If you had a chance to pick any rapper to fight in the UFC or any other MMA promotion, who would it be? It could be past or present. My pick would be Sean Price, the late and great. Ran into that guy in the airport one time, and man, he was huge. Put 6 months of training on him, and he's a beast. Love the show. Cheers.
Who's your prospect?
Ooh, it's got to be Wiz Khalifa, right?
Nah, get out of here.
He trains.
Yeah, so?
Okay, well, I'm not saying he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm just saying.
Have you seen his training?
It's better than most. No, it's better than CM Punk. Wiz Khalifa could beat CM Punk. Want to bet me? Bet you. I bet you.
I don't know. That's a tough one. He has been training.
He's also younger. Now, I don't know how his rap lifestyle, fits into.
Right. What about Snoop Dogg? Did you see him, sparring, was Daniel Serafine?
60 pounds, wet and wearing boots now.
He's got that jab, that reach.
Eazy-E was right about him.
Your boy Tekashi 6'9"?
He's got problems.
He does have problems.
Who would be a good one? Who's I guess 50 was kind of jacked, right?
I mean, he still is. At one point, 50 has sort of become a meme now with, in 2018. But at one point, I mean, 50 is a big dude. He was a scary guy. And I think he did some boxing training. I know he's close to Mayweather. So
all these guys, it would be Sean Price because if you know anything about his rap, he would always make fun of gangster rappers for talking about guns and not throwing hands. That was a constant theme in his.
Maybe he can walk out to one of his songs.
In fact, from the song Onion Head, gangster rappers can't fight, so they rap about guns. Is actually the line. Maybe it would be Sean Price. Rest in peace. There you go.
I don't know if you know this rapper, but Chief Keef.
I do know Chief. Didn't Chief Keef? Wasn't he? Didn't Tekashi 6ix9ine put out a hit on him? Isn't that what's alleged?
It'd be the other way around. But yeah, Tekashi was talking smack about Chief Keef. Chief Keef's legit. I mean, there's tons of videos of him scrapping on YouTube that you can look up, and he's actually a pretty.
Did you ever see Sean Price slap a fan on stage in Chile?
No.
A fan ran up on stage, so Sean Price slapped him hard, like bow, like knocked him sideways.
How big is Sean Price?
He was big. I mean, he's dead. He's dead now, but he was a big boy. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, but I mean, he smoked a lot, and all his teeth kind of fell out.
Maybe.
So I don't know. There you go.
Yeah.
Here's who it wouldn't be. Wouldn't be Drake. How about that? Sorry, Max. It would not be Drake.
All right. Yeah, I would agree. Drake would probably be at the bottom of my list. All right. Let's talk about the start time of all these, MMA events.
All right.
And it was a long weekend.
They're awful, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was bad.
Luke, Danny, love the show. So what's up with the UFC having 6 fights on the main card? I mean, I was falling asleep by the Hunt and Willis fight, to be honest. I did see the co-main and main, though, which were really great. It's over at, 1 a.m. Eastern time. It's really not ideal. Sometimes I think, just in life in general, and it definitely applies here in the UFC, sometimes less is more. And I think the big Fox shows are perfect the way they are set up. Let me know your thoughts.
So he is correct. The big Fox shows are perfect. They start at what? Some 8 p.m., some 9 p.m.
Yeah, 8, and then they go to 10 and some change, depending on how the main event goes.
It's 4 fights.
4 fights. It's perfect. That is exactly how it should go. It's been a disaster. I won't say that the Fox deal's been a disaster because the Fox deal is this complicated, multifaceted arrangement, and then each aspect of that deserves to be weighted accordingly.
Yeah.
What I would say is that the deal put itself over fan interest in a number of different ways. Number one, with the volume of shows that I'm not sure that the fans really asked for. And number two, or really are even serviced by. And two, the start and run time. Starting at 10, having 6 fight main cards, and then allotting 30 minutes essentially for each fight. So you would run up until 1 or past it. These were aspects of the deal that were made to benefit the deal and not fans. And I am desperately hoping and have been told that there might be some reasons for optimism as we transition over to ESPN, because holy shit, that is unbearable. Yeah. And it has been a real drag trying to – I'm going to be clear about this. I only do, on my personal YouTube channel, I'll do a post-fight show. I would do them for the fight night shows, but there's too many of them and they go too late. The pay-per-views end earlier, for crying out loud. So they'd get more. I mean, this is a small consolation, but they'd get more from me if they did anything to do to service the fan who cares, but they don't. So there you go.
Yeah, start time. I mean, 10 p.m. wouldn't be that bad if it were a 4-fight main card, but 6 fights, Jesus. They do drag on. So
or just do 6 fights, but do fight pass pacing.
Oh, yeah.
But they can't because they have added
all the commercials. Yeah. One of the best things, and I love watching live sports, but if you're ever, unable to catch the fights and you go back and watch them the next day and you have it recorded on your DVR and you can just run through them, that's the best. No commercial.
Fair enough.
All right. Now let's talk about women's MMA.
Hey, this is Marissa from Lincoln, Nebraska. I hear every week almost on all these different MMA podcasts that women don't listen. Well,
they don't.
I do. Every single week, religiously.
I appreciate that.
Thank you guys for doing what you do. I enjoy listening to you guys every single day. I don't necessarily have a question, more of a comment. If I did have a question, I think I would just ask any fantasy fights you would like to see. What would they be? Women and female, any weight class, as long as they're active. I want to hear active fighter fantasy fights. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Women's MMA fantasy matchup. Go.
Well, first of all, I've looked at my YouTube stats. My viewers are 96.3% male. It's like a Jordan Peterson lecture up in my audiences. So it's dudes, okay? As for the question, fantasy, but it has to be active. That's a tough one. I would say Peña versus Rousey, but Rousey's not active, so neither is Julianna. Man, that's a tough one. Do you have one in mind?
I mean, mine is already booked. Nunes Cyborg.
Yeah,
I think
it's a great one.
I think the biggest threat to Cyborg has to be Amanda Nunes, in my opinion. I don't see anyone else being any other women out there, posing as big as a threat as Nunes poses. Another fight that I would like to watch, and I think it could happen, and I think it likely will. Holly Holm versus Amanda Nunes. That'd be fun.
Sure, that's another great one. Trying to think. I mean, Gina Carano's not active, but there's some part of me that wishes she would still compete or had not stopped as early as she had. You know, it's interesting. A lot of the women's fights that we had kind of wanted as like these fantasy fights are being made. For example, with this weekend, Shevchenko versus Double J. So there's that. That would be what I would have naturally have picked, but that one's already being made. No, I don't have it at the top of my head. I guess I have a lame non-answer for you, but my wishes have been met. There you go. Sorry, Danny. I suck.
All good.
All right, next.
All right. Let's talk about now the big fight coming up.
Jesse Morgan from Ontario, Canada calling. With all this talk on whether or not Max Holloway will be medically fit to fight this Saturday, do you think this is hurting the build-up to the fight? Or will it end up making the fight even bigger if, God willing, the fight is made official on Friday? Thank you for taking my call.
There is zero chance that is impacting. If anything, people are not giving it enough attention. Now, I'm sure Max feels differently because every interview, including this one, dude, I feel bad. I mean, I didn't want to ask Max about it, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't. But the poor guy had to hear it from me. He's going to hear it all freaking week. You know what it reminds me of? It was Darren Till and the weight cut. It sort of reminds me of that. You know, you have one bad incident, dude, they don't let you forget it until you just go through multiple times. So if he goes through and he makes the weight and he wins the fight, it'll be, you know, a thing of the past by and large.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's dampening enthusiasm at all. The ticket sales in Toronto are phenomenal. Dude, I cannot wait for Saturday. What a ridiculously good fight card, main and co-main, but that main event is about freaking perfect. Two guys in their prime. The only issue is, what is their star power? But that has nothing to do with the question that guy asked. So, no, right. I am ready to rock.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I don't think it's impacting at all. And also, you know, Max doing all this media, he looks in, you know, he sounds in good spirits. And, you know, for last fight week when he was supposed to fight Brian Ortega, he was already looking a little off in the media. So, you know, we see he's completely fine. He's out there chilling with Drake. He's, you know, on Instagram.
Check out,
should be good to go.
Let me give them a bit of an acknowledgement. Check out his interview he did with Complex. He actually went in studio with them. He was actually in New York last week. And he went around and did the tour, and you can see him sitting on the couch. He has vigor and energy, and his face has color, and he looks fine. He looks fine. Any conspiracy theorists about why he didn't want to come on Skype, but.
Plus, I feel like, you know, most of that talk is around the hardcores. I feel like the ones that are casually into it, I think, you know, they kind of forgot about the incident, you know, especially, you know, now with everything that's been moving on. It almost feels like it happened a while ago, even though it was this year.
It was.
Yeah.
Tough year for him, though.
Yep.
Let's roll on.
All right. You got time for one more?
Yeah, we got a couple more.
Hey, Luke, Danny, it's Jordan calling from Gainesville. Don't you think it's a huge oversight that Fight Pass and UFC don't have a PS4 app to watch fights on PS4? I mean, I don't have a laptop and our cable's not hooked up. And so I'm sitting here watching Bellator on PS4, but no UFC. And I just think that it's a huge oversight. What do you guys think?
That's a question for me. Get an Xbox.
Wait a second. I thought PlayStation.
No PS4.
I thought PlayStation had something called Vue, VUE, or you could watch everything on there.
Do you own any gaming system?
No, I read books.
Oh yeah, right. Smart. I mean, you can do both. You know that, right?
I just like trolling all the donks. No, I had an Xbox, and then my home got robbed, and they actually took my Xbox. Can you believe it? I had it a week. A week. My wife got me an Xbox, and they effing stole it.
Xbox One, the latest?
Yeah, it was right. It had just not just come out, but it had been out relatively recently.
Yeah.
And I played Mortal Kombat for a week.
Well, it's good to know you're an Xbox guy at least.
Yeah. Well, my wife got it for that reason because she was like, I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but Xbox, as I understand it, has gaming plus all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas PlayStation is sort of just a little more gaming centric.
Yeah.
To that caller's point. Yeah, it's a little bit surprising, but I don't know. I'm one of these guys that's like, I mean, I'm not sure what to say. Like, if you have a PlayStation, that means you have a television. If you have a television, that means you can get a Roku box for you can get a Roku thumb drive or whatever it is for what, $20 or something? Like there are ways, or just get a Fight Pass subscription and then Chromecast it. Like there's solvable problems here, you know?
Yeah. Also,
or just steal. Just steal. There's other
or
ways.
You can just
don't steal. I'm teasing. I'll get fired.
Just dump the PS4 and get an Xbox.
Yeah, just
better. It's a superior.
Give me the keys to your place, and I'll steal your stuff, and then you can have my stolen Xbox.
Oh yeah, full circle, right?
Yes, that's right. Re-gifting things I steal.
Yeah.
All right, give me one more. Then we got to go.
All right. This is our last one.
Hey guys, it's Justin. I'm calling you from the immortalized shithole that is Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
So, on to the question at hand. You see with RDA, Jake Matthews, and the fellow that beat him this weekend, all these 55ers that have moved up to 170. And my question is, what type of meta would a fighter need to employ in order to make a successful move 15 pounds up?
That's the question?
That is the question.
Jesus.
So
I mean,
you're moving up a weight class.
Yeah, he's talking about the
What do you need
metagame.
to
What are the sort of overall strategic adjustments and approaches to the game that one would need? Well, it would depend entirely on the game and who you're fighting. I'm not sure how to answer that exactly. I mean, it would if you're like a RDA, it would really. So one of the things that really cost him was he was in that tiny cage. So that really hurt him because he had a problem just constantly getting backed up and then he had nowhere to go. It would seem like in a case like that, evasion and footwork would be really kind of critical. Clinch breaking, separation along the fence, takedown defense. And those would be things you would do anyway, but it would really become a premium skill in those particular circumstances. But it would be hard to say. If the issue is you're trying to countenance the addition of 15 extra pounds, implying that weight advantage is something that your opponents will have, then it would be something like that, I would imagine. Yes.
Yeah. Are you a big fan of, bulking up if you're going up a weight class? Because I feel like a lot of fighters don't do that. If they do go up because they feel like they were obviously too big at the one before, so they think they'll be just fine. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that appropriate bulking in that particular circumstance is probably fine. So the answer is some addition of muscle mass not merely beneficial, but maybe even required for that kind of categorical leap? The answer is probably yes, but there's going to be a point where you're going to get real diminishing returns to outright negativity anchoring you down.
Right.
Find a pro, a specialist who can find that exact sweet spot for you and stick to that.
I don't remember out of the top of my head, but has any fighter successfully gone up and, bulked, looked, bigger and has adjusted to the weight class as far as like size and strength? Out of the top of my head, I don't know.
Conor McGregor.
I feel like he's still a small 55er though.
Oh, he's big.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's not wins or loses, it's not because he's he's not undersized though. You ever seen him in person?
I've seen him, but from far,
He's
like
big.
at press conferences.
Nah, he's big.
Stuff like that.
He's big. He's a big boy. He's not like,
I saw the back of his head when I was at the hearing.
He's not huge. He's like, there's bigger lightweights. Don't misunderstand me.
Yeah.
But they're not so big that they can lord that over him. He's not outsized in that way at all. And we're going to see what happens, by the way, with Max Holloway because he's not looking for that. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Appreciate you stopping by. Good job this week. All right, we're not done, though. We have one more segment. It is time now, ladies and gentlemen, for the Monday Morning Analyst. All right, time now for the Monday Morning Analyst right here on the MMA Hour. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So I said this, I think, last week or the week before. Whenever I do these, I ask you guys on my Facebook page, sometimes on Twitter as well, like what are the fights that you want to see broken down on this segment, or I should say in this segment. And almost without exception, the answer was Wilder versus Fury, which is a boxing match. Now, normally I am very loath to do anything like that. This is an MMA show. It should be about MMA. And there was a ton of MMA over the weekend. We are going to show some MMA in here, both from the Australia card as well as from the Bellator card, 210 anyway. But there was so much demand for Wilder Fury. It was the biggest event by far. I thought we have to just acknowledge it. So let's just jump right into it if we can. Let me say something at the outset about Wilder Fury that will, I think, help you understand my analysis a little bit. Number one, I'm not an MMA expert, but I'm certainly not a boxing expert. I want to make that very, very clear. You should always ask the experts about their opinions and their breakdowns. In addition to mine, they may agree, they may disagree, they may have a lot more interesting things to say. I as a general disclaimer, please go do that. I will also say I'm a Deontay Wilder fan. I met Deontay at Mayweather-Pacquiao. He was affable, friendly. He's good with the media. He's obviously a hell of a competitor. But saying that, I must also acknowledge Tyson Fury won that fight. I have no idea how they could possibly think otherwise. I recognize that the two knockdowns, particularly that last one, were beyond incredible. But at the same time, the facts are what they are. He was outboxed. Skills win fights, and that should matter. And it didn't. Here's the interesting part about this. Everyone was on the Mexican judge, Alejandro, I forget his last name, as having the worst scorecard, and he did. He only had 5 rounds for Fury out of 12. And so you just do the math there. He had, I think, the first 4 for Wilder, then the 2 knockdowns, and then you got, I think there's 1 more in there. I'm not sure exactly how it was scored, but you get the idea. But the truth is, 2 of the 3 judges gave the first round to Deontay Wilder, which I found very, very crazy. I don't know how they could do that. So I wanted to show you some stats here, if I may, for just a second. Let me blow this up here a little bit. Here is round 1. So pay attention to just this number. Let me see if I can put a right there. So Wilder scores 4 of 35 strikes. Fury 6 of 29. Let me clear this. Do it again so that we don't have a hold on. Then we're going to do this. This is jabs thrown. I want to show you this. Jabs, Wilder, 1 jab, Fury 3. Power punches, they were equal. So with the CompuBox stats, you never want to take them as gospel. They're only a bit of a guidepost. But on power punches, they were ostensibly equal. On jabs, they were not equal. And on overall strikes, they were not equal. Boxing is obviously more than just the summation of a point total, how many times you made contact. It's the damaging punches that really kind of matter. So here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to roll through and look at parts of round 1 if we can here. Oop, don't want to lose that. Here we are. Here's round 1. What I want you to pay attention to when we look at this here a little bit with Deontay and Tyson is, why does Tyson Fury, in my judgment, win this fight? Well, number 1, I think he landed more, right? It's the sort of same criteria. Who did the most kind of damage? But beyond that, what he really was able to do, if you look at the numbers, is he really limited Klitschko when they fought, and he really limited to Deontay Wilder. He had taken Deontay Wilder's normal rate of offense and took 2/3 of that numerically away. He really kind of limited him. How did he do it? Lots of feints, lots of fakes, lots of jabs, lots of L-stepping. You're going to watch him do something called L-stepping. Rather than sort of these just generic movements side to side, front to back. These are all kind of important, and they can be the most critical thing you can do depending on the circumstance. You see, Brian Ortega does a lot of L-stepping too, and L-stepping is when your lead foot comes back in line with your rear foot, and then your rear foot goes out to the side, and then the lead foot comes back in the front. So you literally make an L with your feet. And why would you L-step? You L-step to reset the angle. It can have defensive purposes. It can have offensive purposes. So in resetting the angle, not only do you take away your opponent's angle, but you also set up your own. It's a good way to quickly get in and out of a position. We're not talking massive jumps, but it's better than an incremental step. A big, nice L-step, particularly when you're 6'9", and you're fleet of foot like he is, it's a nice way to constantly put the other person on the defensive. And so Deontay Wilder, who I love, I think he's such a great champion, and I really respect him. And, of course, that 12th round we'll look at here in just a second. But what he really gets confused by is he bites on the fakes and the feints. He draws back that right hand to really throw it. Tyson Fury sees it coming all the time. He's pumping the jab as consistently as he can, for the most part staying out of trouble. L-stepping to constantly reset angles, clinching when he needs to, turning when he needs to. Skills win fights. In this fight, the more skilled guy was Tyson Fury. He wasn't the harder puncher. He wasn't the guy that knocked down the other guy, but he was the guy who won more rounds and showed overall better boxing ability. I have a hard time understanding how that's not true. And I say that as a dyed-in-the-wool Deontay Wilder fan. All right, so look at some of this. Look at his footwork here. Well, look at him. Look at the hands here, first of all, from Tyson Fury. Side to side, motioning. Look at this. You can't really get a read on him. This is just a standard step. There's no L step there. Let me pull back a little bit so you can see his feet, right? I just look at all of the fakes and the feints, hands moving this way. He's just got so much going on. He's real mindful of distance. Like that. Yep. Hands down, lunging in, trying to get you to bite, trying to get you to do something. There's your first L step there. That's an L step. Resets the angle. So now you have a guy, yes, Deontay Wilder's taking the center, but he has to follow everything that Tyson Fury is doing. Nice jab to the body, but it follows with the parry. Guy is fleet of foot, Tyson Fury is. Again, charging in, but not really. Yes, he's moving and it looks like a charge, but it's all feints and setups. Flicks the jab out there to see what kind of reaction he gets. By the way, if you look at slow motion, a lot of times when Fury jabs, the front of the glove is really loose. He's just flicking it like he's trying to get a booger off of his hand. I know that's an indelicate way of describing it, but it's really true. He's just letting it go. And I think it does that because it allows him to gauge distance. It gets him to cover up because they don't know if it's a punch or it's that big, long piston of a left coming down at him. And so he's able to then score. And as a consequence, he keeps it nice and loose. He's just flicking it, just like that. You see my chin come up? I'd get tagged for doing that. L steps again, resets the angle, parries, goes back out. Look at this. Look at his movement. Look at Deontay's. He's just knowing when the punches are coming. He can see it. Boom. Look at him put a hand on the left shoulder. Right here. Oop, hold on. There we are. Right there. I'm trying to get it to work. All right. Forget all that. God damn it. You see it. You get the idea. Posting on that left hand, it's going to jam the right hand of Deontay as he tries to throw. Plus, it's going to enable him to get away at the same time. Right? There he is. Slowly doing it. Look at him. He sees all the punches coming. Whoop. Puts a hanger up to stay out of it. No, you can see the left coming a million miles away, gets his hands up, but gets two hands up just in case. Decides to wrap like this. Here we go. A little bit later in the round. This is still the first round. Look at Tyson Fury. Same thing. Hands moving. Always in motion, side to side. Good lateral movement. The L stepping is a big part of that. You can see him here kind of dropping his hands to see what what Deontay is going to do. Waits and waits. Now he knows he's up against it. He knows if he's up against these ropes, that big right hand is coming. He waits for it, baits it, kind of steps out to the side, expecting it. These two jabs from Wilder are too far away. He knows it. He can just see it coming. He kind of hangs on the ropes there to dig into him. This is a way of him gauging distance, being able to pull himself back in if he needs to. Lets it go. Gets out of the way of the left, and he can see the right coming the whole time. Look at this. The left hand's up again, right? Boom. Just goes over the top of the head. How many times did you see this play out over the course of the fight? A million times. A million times Wilder would throw with this. A lot of times that left hand of Fury was on that shoulder. A lot of times he was just gauging the distance. So either way, either he knew he was in close proximity and could block, or he wasn't far enough and he could just time it and get down. Very, very, very crisp, nice, clean fundamentals here. And then he clinches up, and they go about their business, right? Here's another indication. Fury is on the outside. Wilder is on the inside. And I think that played a big role in the judge's mind, even though it shouldn't. Fury does kind of like to take the center sometimes, especially in the beginning of the bell. He likes to charge out into the center. But who is doing the more of the damage here? Here's another situation. Look, fading to his left, I believe. Throws a jab. Let's see this jab. What does he do here? Kind of just sort of parries it a little bit. Stuck against the ropes. What does that mean? It means there's probably a big power punch coming, which he knows. Look at this. Gets the right hand up to block because he knows it's coming. Fakes. And look at Deontay. Drops his level. Fury sees it. Whoop. Guides it. He's got this left hand up as a hanger to block the punch and then to get himself off the way. We talked about the hanger with Chuck and Tito. I know a bunch of y'all downvoted it like a bunch of donks. But I was totally right. One of the things that he was able to do is get that hanger up in the air. Here's another version of that. It's not really a punch. Look at the left arm of Fury. He's not throwing a punch. He's just kind of getting it up so when the punch comes and it's nice and wide, it's going to impact on the shoulder and back. Meanwhile, he knows exactly where his opponent is. He can keep this one gloved up or whatever he needs to do to not get attacked from that other side. And he can then just clinch up if he needs to like that, right? And then he gets to turn him away from the corner and then bang him out there. I didn't get to see that with enough closeness to really understand exactly what was happening here. And I love this too. Touch, touch, boom, boom. Now he eats a left hook for his efforts. Duke Rufus always talks about this. A lot of these Dutch guys are really good at it. They're not bang, bang, bang. I went back and I watched the Moicano versus Ortega fight. Man, those two, every shot they threw was whack, whack. Nikki Holtzkin's really good at this. Touch, touch, touch. And then with one punch, bang them out. So they get used to either one side and then you change. They get used to a certain feel and then you change. They get used to a certain frequency and then you change. And then you can follow it up with the other side as well. So that's what you see here. Touch, touch, bang, bang. Now he eats a left hook for his efforts. Okay, nice shot by Deontay Wilder. That left hook was really important as we see a little bit later in the fight. But I just want to point that out. And here's the last bit of this. This is, I think, the end of the round, I believe, or if not quite, pretty close. I love how effective the jab was in the first round and throughout the entire fight for Tyson Fury here a little bit. Watch him jab his way across the body of Deontay Wilder. That's one way to score. That's one way to reset the position. That's one way to throw your opponent off. It's a lot of things you can do. Watch as he just jabs across. Boom. And now he's reset the position here a little bit and gets to get in a little bit tighter, and then he gets to fight a little bit more on his terms out here, right? Didn't like where he was at before, perhaps. Kind of a little bit close to the corner. Boom, comes back around. Sorry about that. And then fades across. Love that from Tyson Fury. George St. Pierre was really good about that, just tripling up on the jab as you wave across. You can get your new position. You can score. You can throw them off. You can neutralize them. There's a lot you can do about that. And, of course, Tyson Fury did it. And there's that. Watch his feet. L step. There's your L step, folks, right here. Watch the feet here. Let's see. Let's use yellow. Watch the feet here. See that? L step. And he gets to reset the angle just like that. Now there's a new angle. These angles don't look like much if you're used to just watching MMA fights. In boxing, that's a major angle change. We think of angle change as like in front to the side. An angle change can be that. An angle change can be that. Just the slightest of margins. All right? Love that. Watch this. I think this is towards the end. Look at this from Tyson Fury. Gets just out of the way of the left hook. Almost like a Philly shell. Almost like a shoulder roll, Mayweather style. Watch this. Kind of squares up. Eats a little bit of the jab, but not too much, and then knows the right hand is coming. And just kind of rolls with it the whole way. Not doing hardly any damage to him at all in this particular context. And then he just jabs his way out of the corner. Just like that. Backs him up. I think this is right at the end here. He eats a nice jab to the body from Deontay Wilder. This is pretty good, right? He jabs his way in. Look at this sort of left side hanger here. How are you going to throw a right hand over the top of this? How do you throw a right over the top of that? How do you do that? You can't. You could try, but you really can't. So he just kind of gets under it. He knows it's coming. He can post it on the shoulder. He can do whatever he needs, and he gets under it. No harm, no foul. Throws a nice left hook. Knows exactly where he is. And by the way, this left hook here, it's almost from, he's southpaw here. Look at that. And then switches back. Bang. Look at this. He's left southpaw, orthodox, sort of, right? No, I actually call this southpaw and then switches here. Bangs him out. Nice shot and wobbles him here. Look at the time on the round. 5 seconds left. He had the best damage at the end of that round, if you can see that. He had the best damage at the end of that round. And two of the three judges gave this to Deontay Wilder. Now, I know this is selective. Jab, jab. Look at this. Touch, touch, bang, bang. And they both kind of exchanged there a little bit, but Tyson got the better of it. So what did Tyson do? Stuck behind the jab, good footwork, L-stepping, clinching when you need to, throwing the hanger up to block the right, getting the distance right so he could then shoulder roll and tuck, getting out of the corner, waiting for Deontay to attack and then counterattacking, switching stances out of the corner when he needed to. So much, much more complete boxing performance from Tyson Fury. And then he jabs out and the round ends. And then the shot heard round the world, ladies and gentlemen. Then that rained down upon us like fire and brimstone. Let me just say this. I've seen comebacks in combat sports. You have too, I'm sure. I've never seen a shot put a guy out like that and then that guy get up. In terms of that notion of recovery, the immediacy of it, like I've seen people mount comebacks over a minute or a round or two or three. I've never seen that. I've never seen someone take a death blow. Folks, whatever you want to make of Deontay Wilder's boxing ability relative to Fury's, there is one thing that is not in doubt. His power is probably the best in the world right now in terms of boxers. Who is the hardest hitting boxer on earth right now? It's probably Deontay Wilder. If not, he is very much on that short list, right? An absolute ferocious animal when it comes to power. Look at this shot, man. Look at this shot. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Zoom out, rather. Let's get this going here a little bit. Or is this all the footwork he does to avoid him? What is this part here? Let's see here. What am I looking at? Oh, here we go. So what are we looking at here? Deontay sort of marching into him. Tyson's looking. He's got that low. He's got his right hand up, his left hand down. Looks like he wants to, like, parry this and slip this a little bit. You kind of, like, see that? He wants to kind of, like, down parry or side parry it and then lean at the same time. Like that. See that? The little movement, he's just trying to do that. But the problem is he doesn't get enough out of the way. And as they noted on the broadcast, a lot of times Wilder was coming like this. This time he came straight down the pipe. It was a nice shot. Cracked him right here, right? And then as he's falling, hit him with the left hook of death. Look at this from another angle. I've never seen a human being recover from that in my life. Unbelievable what he did here, right? So then he just gets up. He just got up. Nobody gets up. He got up. Crazy, right? Crazy. Okay, we go through this. Look at this. This is ridiculous, right? Oh, my God. Deontay Wilder didn't know what he was up against, bro. Okay, and then they slug it out, blah, blah, blah. Look at this. Jab, boom. Nice shot here, cross. Look at this. And he just leapt into it, too. Watch the feet. Deontay Wilder leaves his feet. Look right. Let me change the color of this. Look here. Watch him leave his feet. Bang. I think that's why the distance kind of surprised him, because before, Wilder may have stepped hard, but he didn't leave his feet. This time, watch here. Look at that. That little hop, bang, right? Crushes him. And look at this left hook, because he steps forward. He throws it, boom, steps forward, and then from the southpaw position, lands the boom left hook, son. Oh, God. Look at that shot. You've never seen a comeback like that in your life, man. Never. Never. I've just, who was the guy that put out Ruiz with the one shot right against the ropes? It was like that. Look at him. He does the old bit. Nope. Sorry, Deontay. Not this bloke. Is that not ridiculous? And look at him. Dude, you've seen guys like this. Here, I thought he was doing that concussed thing where guys get injured and then just brought back to life. Look at that. Collected himself and stood up. His mental fortitude is like nothing we've ever seen before, maybe in all of combat sports. That is the most insane thing in terms of a recovery I think I've ever seen. I did not go into this fight as much of a Tyson Fury fan, respected him, of course. I came out of this one a massive fan. Now, that's just the boxing for the weekend. Enough of that, blah, 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 blah. You guys see it there. Great. Boom. Done. He gets dropped. Enough. Let's talk about this real quickly. This is Tony Martin versus Jake Matthews from the weekend. I want to get into this very quickly if we can. People are kind of saying, what do we make about this name change? Is that really a thing we're going to just have to acknowledge now? Like, what is that? Dude, Tony Martin has been a very good fighter for a very long time. Had some ups, had some downs. Consider this. He is on a 3-fight win streak, all of those in 2018. He's won 3 fights this year. I think most of them, if not all of them, by stoppage. The last 2, certainly by stoppage. One by KO head kick on Ryan LaFleur, and now this against Jake Matthews. He went up a weight class to do it. He got his black belt. I think when he started in the UFC, he was just a purple. You can see his ground game get a lot better, and I loved this anaconda choke, and I will tell you why. So he'd been calf kicking him, Matthews this whole time. Matthews kind of goes to the ground. He eats a punch for his efforts. And here we go. Marcelo Garcia Cipa. I've told you guys this before. One on top of the shoulder, one on top of the armpit. The hand that's coming over does the stabbing. The other one secures. You see that right here. Remember Chael Sonnen trying to flip Fedor over and digging the shoulder into the back of the head to get him to rotate? You can do that without actually asking them to rotate. Watch what Tony Martin does here. He gets this position. Watch what he does. He's going to sag his weight forward. Now look at, Now look at this. Watch all the weight of Jake Matthews. Look at this. Look at the shoulder here. I'll blow it up a little bit. He's driving that weight into it. Nice and down, right? Pretty crazy. Here's what I love. Look at this for just a second. Look at the hand here. You see the hand right here? That's the hand of Jake Matthews. He's going to bring it inside. When he does, look at Tony Martin. He's going to drive that knee inside. I don't know how much of this was intentional. Tony Martin, or Rocco Martin, excuse me, if you're watching this, please tell me, because I have been very, not surprised, but very pleasantly happy to see his progress. I don't know how much of this was intentional in terms of what I'm about to show you, but if someone sees this, tell them about it, because I would love to know. Watch this. So he digs his weight forward. So now all of the weight of Jake Matthews is down and forward. He cannot sit up. He's got all this space behind him because he's still on his knees. If you don't cover with your elbows, and he's not covering with his elbows, look, they're flared out like that, you're going to have all kinds of space. Here's what I think he does. He actually sags his weight so far back. Look at this. Ready? Look, this is the leg of Jake Matthews. This is the leg of Tony Martin. He's sagging so far forward and so far off to the side that he's using Matthews' own leg as a hook so that, like a rubber band, if you stretch it and let go, it pops, right? So that he can ricochet the other way. That's what I think is happening here. I don't know that to be a fact because it's such an interesting dynamic here. I've never quite seen this before. But he's leaning on one side so that he doesn't fall too. If you didn't have this hook here, he'd just fall off, right? There would be nothing holding him there. But that holds him in place. And then when that first knee is sunk and that first hook is sunk, then he can just pop over to the other side like that. Then what do you see here? Jake Matthews' hand is trapped. I don't know the sequence here about how he was, because initially he just drove in a knee. How he got the knee to turn into a hook on top of the hand, I don't know exactly what the setup is there. I'd have to see, because obviously Matthews is kind of like reaching across or underneath. I need to kind of see how he did that. But I know for sure he was sagging so that he could leapfrog back the other way. And I mentioned this before. You see it in MMA all the time. A lot of people want to put the far side hook in first. No, near side hook in first, then the far. Rocco Martin did it correctly. Very nice. And that's why that back mount is ridiculous, right? So then he's still got this nice tight control. Look at him driving all that weight down, right? Love that. And then he's going to sag to the side. Now he's posting off his shoulder, elbow, and head. Okay? He drops. He's got this hook. This is why I think there's a degree of intentionality to it, because I think he meant to do that once he put that first hook in. How he did it, I don't know. I'd love to know the specifics of that, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Then he just switches grips, right? Before he's over here, now he switches, comes around, and then just sits, just like this. Whoop. Drives his hand through and locks it up. This is my favorite part, right? Everyone talked about how he, look at the bottom leg of Tony Martin. Excuse me, Rocco Martin. Slides it through, sinks on top. This leg is going to come up here and then slide down, I think, to make sure it's secure like that. And then he rolls over. Everyone's like, oh, he hooked the leg so that you couldn't do that Three Stooges bit like Brian Ortega and Cub Swanson, where he had the same choke, but he didn't have the legs locked up, so they kind of just follow each other. He's preventing that here, but it's more than that. Remember that initial arm I talked about? Look here. What do you notice? It's not just that the leg is trapped. It's not just that the leg is trapped. The arm is trapped too. I got two rings there, so let me clear that off. The arm is trapped. God damn it. There we go. The arm is trapped too. Just like this. Look at that. So you get both the leg and the arm, and he set that up off the initial hook, sunk his weight to one side. He could ricochet to the other, switch the grip, drop to a hip, slid it through, locked it up, sunk the like a baseball slide, his left leg through, crushed it on top, sealed it with the right leg, and then rolled, choke to the sky like you see here. And that's all she wrote, bro. Real quickly. I want to show you something. Joe Schilling fought a guy by the name of Will Morris on the prelim card of Bellator 210. Joe Schilling's record heading into this fight was 2-5. He's had a lot of ups in his career and some downs, right? Some noteworthy downs. He has been training. I think he's a blue belt now, maybe even under Rener Gracie. I'm not sure under who. Shouts to the folks at High Rollers BJJ. He's been competing. Granted, it's a BJJ tournament where you get high, but he's been competing in the gi and training in the gi. There's footage of it. Not just when he's high, of course, when he's sober as well, but there's video of that. Shouts to Joe Schilling. Joe Schilling's wrestling has improved dramatically. His striking has obviously been always great. His ground and pound is nasty. Look at this. This guy tried to take him down. Joe reversed him. Now watch this. I'm going to show this to you in real time. Watch this. This is real-time footage. Watch how fast the right hand comes. Hold on. He's going to sink the whizzer over the top. He's going to use that to elbow him flat, and then watch how fast the right hand comes. Watch this. Watch these. Look at that ground and pound. Bloodied him up immediately. Whoa, dude. Joe Schilling, if he can get the right position on top, it turns out that not only is he a great striker standing, but if he can balance himself, he's got blazing hand speed, good power, nice accuracy. Certainly he's a vicious competitor. I loved seeing a bunch of this stuff, and you see him just absolutely all over this guy, right? Here's another scenario. He bombs on this guy with an elbow. He drops. Schilling stays on top. Now here he makes a little bit of an error in terms of the scramble. I won't go into the details enough to just say the thing was he kept his there's a couple things he could have done better. He's off balance here. If this guy with his right arm turned to face him, he would have run him over. But Joe recenters his hips like that and gets back on top. That was a nice adjustment by him. Let's just sort of go through this very quickly. And you can see him here. He's doing that bit from the Ben Nguyen, Luis Smolka fight. Ben Nguyen may be the better wrestler than Luis Smolka. But Luis Smolka has a nice guillotine series, and with the guillotine series, would attempt it and then force Nguyen back to his back. You see Schilling do that here with the stand-up guillotine all the time. And then he gets him back down. Dude, look at this ground and pound. Look at this. Hard elbows. This guy is in trouble underneath. Look at the masterpiece that this violent painter is painting. Look at this. Turns out Joe Schilling, look at the hand speed, bro. Turns out Joe Schilling has phenomenal, look, he's still growing as a martial arts, but phenomenal ground and pound. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that. Look at that. It's like my underwear after Chipotle. All right. Probably going to get fired for that. All right. Look, again, what did I show you? Guillotine. Can't finish it, so he just runs him over. A couple things here he could have done differently. He's still growing. No one's got a perfect fight. But here's the very ending. Look at this. All over him from the stand-up. Watch this in real time. Bang, bang. On top. Look at this. Goes to leg drag. Here he is in leg drag. There's a lot of things you could have done differently from leg drag to get to a better position, but just banging on this guy. Unbelievable. Shouts to Joe Schilling. What a phenomenal job. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give the video a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here at MMA Fighting. Tons of 231 coverage coming your way. Appreciate it. And we're out of here. Until next time, stay frosty.